South Africa's largest animal feed retailer and a haven for equestrian enthusiasts and animal lovers. Friendly and knowledgeable staff are at your service. We pride ourselves in offering a vast range of premium products that we know and trust. Your passion is our passion at Midfeeds and Tack and Togs. Where we lead, others follow.
Wanted to build and create an exciting jump and filler, but never had the right product? With our multi-purpose Rotoveti, we have the solution for you. This proudly South African product, made by equestrians for equestrians, will allow you to build amazing rules, fillers and wings for your jumps and gymnastics. Our award-winning Rotovetis are designed with your safety in mind, with its rounded corners, interlocking pins, and brightly colored options ensures an affordable, safe and lightweight product that can be quickly assembled and taken down. Our Rotovetis come with a plug for an easy way to fill your Rotoveti with sand or water if you need to weigh it down on those windy days. The durable and sturdy construction ensures years of use thanks to the UV8 technology. Rotovetis are sold in sets of 2 jump blocks, including 4 interlocking pins. Each block is 45 by 40 by 14 centimeters. The best thing is, you can order your Roto
People tuning in
Vetis
from the
directly
UK.
from us. Contact us via our Facebook page, email, or contact number provided.
Stand by. Very good evening to everybody and welcome to the South African Warmblood Horse Society Virtual Young Stock Show for 2022. This is the second one that we're doing. The first one was very well received and we are looking forward to tonight's catalogue, shall we say. First of all, a big thank you to all of our sponsors. We've got Rotaflow on board. Big thank you to Clive Robertson, Equus Pro, Talkcraft, Mindy Hunt, big thanks. Renelle Gilbert, Manador, she's come on board. Equine Librian, Equifeeds, the Compen Horse Stud, Midfeeds, big thank you to them. Aileen Papenfuss of Iconic Sires, HQ, African Horsefly Spray, Impact Christian Church, AFM Impact Christian Church, which is where we're broadcasting from tonight. Big thank you to them. Studguard have come on board as well, and the International Horse Transport Enterprises, Candice Hobday, who is part of our judging panel tonight. Very good evening. Let's start with Candice. How are you this evening?
Absolutely fabulous and so thrilled to be back on board. I was tad terrified that I was going to be excommunicated from the horse fraternity after Rogan and ours inaugural event last time, and clearly we did.
I thought you did very well. Did you say something you shouldn't have?
Well, I wasn't sure when the mic was on and off, so that's always very tricky, you know.
Good to have you on board. Ryan, you joining us for the first time this evening. How are you?
Good in you, Aidan. Thank you.
Very good. Ryan Andrews from Keller Park. A little bit about yourself. Maybe some people don't know who you are out there. Just a little bit of an intro.
Yeah, we breed. Obviously, we've been breeding for about 20 years now. Now focusing on the jumping. We've moved away from the dressage, and hopefully we're going to see some good stock coming through.
I saw your catalogue. It looks very, very exciting.
Well, thank you. I think we've made a big effort this year to, go with some really top breeding, and hopefully the results, bear fruit from the, what we've put in.
Brilliant. And Rogan on the far side there. How are you?
Well, how I am is listening to Ryan do understatement. He really is undertalking himself. He's brought in some of the most extraordinarily high-ranked stallions, and he really has spent money on top seamen. And I don't know why he said he's focusing on jumping only this year. He's been doing it a while, and we're all very impressed and excited with what Ryan's up to.
Well, thank you.
So the way it's going to work this evening, we're going to be going through all the classes. Our judges, who are our scorers, are lurking in the background. Once the judges have given their scores, and we've taken a look at all the videos, we're going to get some comments from the judges on each one of the horses as the videos are up. And then when the scores are ready, they'll be fed back to us, and then I think between classes hopefully we'll have some scores by then, and then we'll go through all the results. So the first class that we have is at the 4A dressage, the class 4A dressage bred 4-year-olds. Is that correct?
Yes.
Indeed.
Right, that is indeed correct. I just need to get confirmation so I don't jump the gun here. Big thank you to all the sponsors once again. The first prize for this class is 1,000 Rand. Second prize is 600 Rand, and we do have gift vouchers as well from AHFS and a voucher for a 1-litre Studguard bottle as well. So the first class, we've got 5 horses in the under 4-year-old dressage breds, and we're looking forward to especially Candice's comments here, as you are the dressage fundi, Candice. So why don't we kick it off with the first horse on the program, and this is Chacha Welo. This is by Licano Chiquelo out of a Euron M mare. We're going to run the video. There's the pedigree up on the screen, and a little comment from you, Ryan, on that pedigree to kick us off.
Well, it's certainly, I would say, a mixed pedigree in terms of dressage and jumping. And interesting, going back to Davenport Stud is where the mare line comes from, through Lancer, who was a very useful thoroughbred producer of jumpers, and Rex Grannis, who we all know has bred a lot of top horses. But the Huron M by Fleming gives it a little bit of dressage coming in there on the mother's line. And Chocoello jumped successfully, but a good type, and he seems to have given a lot of correct types.
Right, so cast your eyes up to the screen there, Ryan, as you need to do a bit of judging. So I'm going to take you through the write-up on this horse. This was bred by Michelle Knott. We're looking at Chachawelo. Chacha is an elegant and athletic filly. She has big elastic stride through all her gait. She's well-balanced, intelligent and sure-footed, which will hold her in good stead for a jumping and or dressage future. She's inquisitive and very willing when presented with something new. Her father, Lacano Chiquelo, is currently competing in the 1 meter 40s with ease. He's brave and takes everything in his stride, with some dressage bloodlines from the dam side. We are super excited for the future, says the owner, Faith Humphreys. So there is Chachawelo up on the screen. Now, well, we're going to let our judges have a look. And then we're going to talk about the marking process and how that will work, what they're getting marks for and what the marks are out of. And I'm sure we'll queue up the videos once again while we go through some of our comments. Candice, let's start with you. You having a look. The horse is showing off some canter.
I definitely think we do need to give a prize for the people chasing the horses. We're going to give an opinion on that afterwards. It's always fun seeing how people make their horses move free. It's a lovely, lovely mare. I think she's certainly workmanlike and would be very useful for dressage in future. I still think she's fairly immature, actually, even though she's 4 years old. I think that's going to be a very different picture with work. She's got a good walk and trot and canter. I think the real elasticity will develop with education. In future, I would like to see a bit more ground covering and swinging in the walk and over track to get a really, really high mark for that. But keeps a really good rhythm and clearly well balanced.
Rogan, over to you.
So it's so interesting, as Ryan said, this is a very jumping dosed pedigree. You look at it and you think, well, go and look at that as a jumper for sure. What is more interesting is how the horse has still got to come up in the wither, so the horse is going to grow a lot. And what is fascinating is how much they change after they've finished growing. If you were to be critical, you'd like to see a little more elasticity and definitely a bigger, more overstepping walk. But an interesting type, a horse you'd definitely want to go and take a look at.
And Ryan, your comments, and perhaps you can also talk us through the, not your scores, but how the scoring sheets are how
Sure.
they work.
Yeah, I agree really with Rogan and Candice. The horse is showing, paces that are good quality and certainly workmanlike, and I agree certainly with the ground covering. We were working for the dressage horses. They're all getting a mark for the walk, the trot, and the canter out of 20. So your movement actually makes up 60% of the overall mark. Type and conformation, where we basically assess the horse as a type, and in this class, for a dressage horse specifically. And then we give a mark for the pedigree out of 10, also bearing in mind that this class is for dressage. And then we have 10 marks for the overall impression, which is really the feel we get off the horse. Some horses really come across really well, even though they may be not showing as much movement in other areas.
Thanks very much to you, Ryan. So the judges are currently writing down their scores as we go over to the next one in this class, the dressage bred 3 to 4 years. And number 2 in this class is Cheval Dansant Cheval Becuse. I believe it's actually written out for me, Berceuse. I think that's how you pronounce it. Let's take Rogan, you on pedigree. If you just glance down to the page, What are your overall impressions?
Strong dressage pedigree. Strong, so one's expecting really above average movement here. And looking at his photograph there, a beautiful type with a lot of rein. Strong in the back.
So the breeder is Sue Boerter, the owners are Linda and Trevor Hennings, and I'm going to go through the write-up while the judges take a look at the video. Berceuse means lullaby in French. Her stable name is Flopsy, thanks to the enormous hearing aid she was born with. This is the sweetest, gentlest filly anyone could ever wish for. Her temperament is pure gold. She's highly trainable and does not get remotely flustered when she is put under pressure. She's still very much a farm horse who has minimal human interaction, and yet she handled the washing, plaiting, fussing, and ad nauseum posing required for this online event. Nothing phases her because of her excellent bones, substantial joints and feet, perfect for shock absorption. She epitomizes the term long lassen, as you will see in the movement videos. This filly uses her entire body when she moves. She has beautiful natural balance and unbelievable elasticity. She's by the Bellissimo Volkenstein stallion Rivendell Bergeront out of multiple breed and movement supreme champion mare Mount Devotion. Berceuse will be a late maturer, but she's most certainly will be worth the wait. Her owners and I are super excited to see how she develops. Let's first sort out this pronunciation. Rogan, how do you pronounce it? I massacred it, I'm sure.
That's German of pronounce it. I think
No, it said French, means lullaby in French.
No, but didn't they say losgelassenheid?
Pronunciation aside, the uphill movement, the potential uphill movement, and to remember that we're looking at adolescent horses, so there's even more going to come, strength, power, more balance, but boy, is it an uphill moving horse. Candace, I hope you endorse that.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sort of a bit surprised that they described her as immature. I mean, for me, she looks like a 6-year-old and ready to be saddled up and ridden down the center line. Beautiful model. I mean, you certainly would struggle not to stare at her in the ring. Conformation and fundament, I think, is principally very correct. Very balanced mechanic in terms of expression in front and activity behind. And of course, I agree with the comment in terms of very uphill moving. That's a lovely horse.
Is that what the losgelassen means?
And I would need to check your spelling.
Well,
there,
I can't see that's French. That sounds a bit German to me.
Yeah, I think it should be reading losgelassenheid, but my eyes aren't that good from here, I'm afraid.
All right. Ryan, your impressions?
Yeah, it really is a model of a horse, and almost a clone of its sire, Rivendell Bergeront. And he's an interesting stallion because he's very correct, has outstanding temperament and a really good canter, gives a good hind leg. And then, of course, the mother of this, Midas Touch Devotion, Sue Boerter's Pride and Joy, was a champion free mover as a young horse, and really exceptional mover. And I know she breeds with her as often as she can. But this looks like the father, but certainly got the movement and the quality coming through from the mother as well.
So overall, we like?
Very much so.
Very much so. Well done, Chevelle Stud. We like very much. Right, moving on. Have you all jotted down your numbers, your scores? Got them? Right, moving swiftly along to number 3 in this 3 to 4-year-old dressage, Volstant Essence of Time. And let's go to you, Candace, a quick glance at the pedigree.
So it's sort of quite interesting pedigrees to see. I see a couple of pedigrees that jump out in terms of the Buckenberg that, sure, I haven't seen that for a while. Also Katanga, that's a stud that I don't know when they stopped or if they're still breeding, but that's also from being around in my entire riding career. And then Beach Haven as well, that's a pedigree or a stud that I certainly recognize. And then Aurelius that I haven't seen for a long time. Obviously the Heartbreaker coming through at the top being more tending towards jumping line, but Rogan and I were actually talking earlier and saying generally you'll get show jumpers that can do dressage, but not normally dressage horses that can do jumping, except for It's Otto, I think you mentioned.
Yes, definitely one of them, and it slipped my mind, but it'll come back.
But those are the exceptions to the rule. So it's also, I find, a very interesting pedigree.
So let me take you through the write-up from the breeders. So the breeder of Volston Stud is based near Nelspruit, and the owner is Jonette van der Merwe. Essence is a remarkable and feisty mare with great potential in dressage. She will also be a great prospect for showing with correct conformation and good paces. She's sensitive and relies on her handler rider for guidance. Her Siren Dam have very good breeding with good temperaments and workable minds. So let's go back to Ryan here. You've had a look at some of the movements.
Yes, it's a very actually interesting for me because it's a combination of breeding, warm blood breeding in South Africa for generations. It's coming through from all angles here. But the pedigree is really strong for jumping, and it looks like a jumping stamp to me, and it also looks still quite immature. I think this horse still needs time to develop before we're going to really see its true potential coming to the front.
Rogan, from a jump, I know this is the dressage section, but a lot of jumping blood in here. The sire there, Whitewater's on time, the dam sire still competing in the big classes.
Whitewater's on time, on track, who's the son of Ondel V. And he's really had limited opportunity and high impact. This is an exciting one. Again, on paper, you'd go and look at the pedigree, and this is very pleasing. And can I say, without being disparaging, an all-rounder. You could see this making some young lady very happy because it would show dressage, jump, and then you picked the discipline it was best at. Appealing.
And my only comment would be it would have been nice to have seen proper standing photos for confirmation. So I think it's always important to reiterate to the presenters of the horses to make sure your videos are done as best as possible to give us the best chance of evaluating your horse to the best degree.
Right, so you've got your numbers jotted down. We'll move along then. So well done to the Volston stud. That was Essence of Time. Number 4 in the dressage bred 3 to 4-year-olds. There it is, Eva Estelio. The owner is Cynthia Molina. Who do we go to for pedigree? Let's go back to Rogan on the far side.
So strong dressage dosage here. Jumping line through Belmondo on the dam side. Well, Belmondo and Gratuity. What an interesting pedigree. And again, a horse that I think is going to furnish and become more and more attractive. We're seeing it as a real adolescent.
Ryan, your impression on the pedigree?
Yeah, as Rogan says, there's a lot of dressage on the top. Everdale is an international dressage sensation, and we're only starting to see his first progeny in this country, and he gives that dark color that we're seeing here. Belmondo on the mare's line was probably an underutilized stallion and really typey. And then we see the Gratuity, the older blood, Hanoverian blood coming through with some thoroughbred further back. It also, to me, looks like a horse that is got to still mature a lot.
So the write-up from the owner, Cynthia Molina. Eva Estelio is a tall, leggy, inquisitive filly, turning 4 at the end of December. The sire is Everdale, bred by the Van Olst stud. Everdale is a very elegant build, well-developed and exceptionally talented stallion. Eva's Dam Bachelor's Girl. Sire is the great Belmondo, who also had excellent dressage and show jumping lines. Belmondo had Toulon, Lister Diamond, Nimidor, Fawn, who all excelled in dressage. Although Eva is currently at odd growth development stage, she already shows elasticity in movement with a positive attitude in learning. Candice, can you see the potential?
So I think it's a truly immature mare. I mean, if you have a look at in comparison to the chestnut that was described as immature, this is really immature. She's, I think you really would have to have a good look at her in about 2 years' time, actually. She's very lithe and I think quite nimble for such a big horse. And, you know, her gaits sort of match each other, and she's very attentive to her environment, and I do think with education she should show some scope for some dressage.
So that is the lovely Eva Estelio, as the owner says there, at a slightly awkward stage of her development. It'll be lovely to see that in a year or so's time. Let's move on now to the last one in this class. This is number 5 in the dressage bred 3 to 4 year olds. It is Edelsheim Sir Lauritz. And let's go to you, Candice, to kick us off on the pedigree.
So this is a super interesting pedigree. Certainly looking at Sonnentanzer, you've got Donnerhall coming through there, and on the bottom line you've got then line bred to Donnerhall on the Del Piero side, and Macho, so beautiful bloodlines. And then again now Hallmark coming through, which is so awesome, you know, to see Theo's breeding coming here. Obviously Elzu Landgraf was more on the jumping line, but I do find sometimes having a bit of jumping line in your dressage breeding helps a little bit with the athleticism and elasticity, because often the dressage horses can be a bit diligent in their mechanics, so adding that sort of sportiness can help with the movement. And then, yeah, that Hallmark Devon, then you've got Durencut. Gosh, I haven't seen that for quite a while. So those are really beautiful old South African bloodlines. So beautifully bred gelding, colt.
The owner, it's a colt. The owners are Peter and Elizabeth Muller of the Edelsheim stud. The same mare is used in this breeding as for the 2-year-old Don Laban, who we'll see later. Originating from Namibia, Peter has always had a great interest in pedigrees and has matched the Donnerhall lines in this pedigree. So Lauritz is a laid-back and easy-going lad. Laid-back personality. Right, your impressions. Let's start with you, Ryan.
Yeah, it's a very attractive colt. Looks like he's got a really good disposition. Seems to move in a very easy way. And like Candice said, the Landgraf coming through all the way in the color, the grey color coming through all the way back from the Landgraf. So some of these genes, they stick there for generation after generation.
Rogan?
He's interesting, he's powerful, likable, and this is such a hard age because your eye tells you that he's only going to improve as his wither comes up, and it's going to be more and more horse. There's loads to like about him.
Candice?
One comment, I really find him extremely well balanced. He keeps a super
that puts
rhythm.
A finger on it.
Yeah. He's methodical in his mechanic. Canters very well left and right, keeps a super uphill rhythm on both sides, and is equaled in the trot, which I like a lot. So enough elasticity, uphill moving, and good rhythm with balance. I like that very much.
So that concludes the first class of the evening, the dressage bred 3 to 4 year olds. Have all you judges tallied up your scores? Can we get the scorers to come in and collect in a moment or two? Not quite yet. Hold.
We love we don't have to count as well.
No, we just right there. They've got to count.
Okay, all right. Come and grab them, ladies. Come and grab the sheets. Are we going to go to a little ad break, producers, or are we going to move swiftly along into the second class, which will be the show jumper 3 to 4 year olds? Okay, we're going straight into the 4 year olds, I'm told, and the first of the 4 year olds for jumping, that is Zorino Edelweiss. And there he is, Zorino Edelweiss. Now, over to you, Ryan, a little bit about this stud. You know a bit about the Zorino stud?
Yes, Sylvia Kotze in Namibia, and her son, Charles Kotze, probably more known on the local jumping circuit. And he has a horse that was bred there by Zorino Stud that's now going around the open grades. And this one's got a strong jumping pedigree. Elias van Godselbos was an imported horse. I think Anne-Marie Esslinger had the horse before sending him to stud in Namibia. He's by Utrillo van der Heffing, who's that very strong Clinton Heartbreaker cross that we see again and again that's been so successful. And then the mother by Consuelo, who has yet to be replaced in Namibia. We haven't found his successor yet in terms of breeding jumping horses. So certainly a very interesting, strong jumping pedigree here.
So the judges are going to take a look at this horse's paces. You're looking at Zerino Edelweiss, and as Ryan said, bred by Sylvia Kotze of the Zerino stud, which is based in Walvis Bay, Namibia. The trainers out at that stud are Tanya Graham of Mount Riviera stable. So I think the horses, do they send them out to Tanya?
Yes,
Correct,
they do.
based in Pretoria.
Okay, so she's in Pretoria. So the write-up on this, the sire Ilya stands at Zonjati stud in Namibia. The combination with Consuelo mare seems to be working well. This is a very level-headed and sweet mare, shows a lot of potential for jumping. To the point. Like it. Rogan, over to you. Paces, movement.
So there's a slightly Araby quality, if you were to be critical. Head up, tail up. But very functional movement.
Candice.
So my little comment on the pedigree, it's certainly quite interesting. I know you're asking about the horse, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Clinton was, wow, that was a cracker jumper. Not always that rideable, but he certainly jumped phenomenally. And you see the Corrado one has come through again over there. Obviously then 3 times line bred to Coeur de la Brea. And Landgraf and then our older pedigrees in terms of Drosselklong Don Carlos, and that's line bred twice. So I think the pedigree is certainly very interesting for show jumping. I think this is a very athletic horse. He's got good hind legs and would like to see a bit more range in the canter, but I do think that's a bit of tension coming through because he's certainly moving with enough elasticity to be even interesting for a bit of dressage in the trotting. And I know the Consuelos do normally have quite good mechanic. They've produced 1 or 2 dressage horses as well and are also very supple moving horses. And he's got a lot of range, so I think in terms of stride would be certainly interesting for jumping in the future.
And Ryan.
Yeah, he's got an active hind leg, and he's framey enough, and yet he's not a heavy horse. He's quite modern, actually. And so I think, and also the Namibian horses do tend to mature later. He looks like he's still got some maturing and growing to do as well.
If you were to be slightly fussy, you'd like him with more rein and a better, a little short of rein.
Yes, I agree with that.
Right, so the judges are going to jot down their scores as we move on to number 2, who's up on screen already, Salou Las Vegas. Lissabon Argentinos, well related. This is bred by Sheila Archdeacon, who studs in Zimbabwe, the Salou stud. They had success on this program last year with the sister Delphine, I remember. This boy is the real deal, a fantastic temperament, flashy looks, movement, and a phenomenal jump. He's currently going through another growth spurt and is already over 17 hands. His mother, Calaho Alaska, produced Liberia, and one that you'll know, Rogan, Constantino, who stands in your stables, and his sire needs no introduction. This young stallion is going all the way.
Well, this is the full-on Calaho type of pedigree. All those mares and bloodlines available from Calaho. And like Lissabon himself, this is a very handsome horse. The dip behind the wither, a little concerning, but I presume as he grows, that will level out a little. Beautifully marked and a very handsome horse.
Ryan, your impressions, pedigree and movement?
Well, he's certainly what you'd expect from Lissabon. Lissabon is very consistent in what he throws, and you can certainly look and see the Lissabon in this horse. A little bit of chrome on him as well. Going back on the mare line, that Quitaska was an imported mare by Kidams Ruben, and she produced Yanni Kleinhans's horse, I think it was Calaho Conquita, who jumped in the 150s with Yanni Kleinhans. So it's a very proven mare line in terms of what it actually produces in the sport. And he looks like he moves easily through his body. He's balanced. He's got an easy canter. And he looks good in his head. He looks very relaxed about has he been chased around? He's having a bit of a play, but he looks relaxed and easy in his body. Has an easy way of moving.
Candice.
So it's a charming horse, again, a real eye catcher. I think the dip is behind the withers a little accentuated by the fact that he's a bit roachy, but I do
Yes.
think that will develop out a little bit as he matures if he maybe lifts up in front. But at the end of the day, for jumping, I don't think that would really matter. My little bit criticism of him is that he's a bit pinched behind. So for sometimes the stride is a little tight in the canter, but he does keep a very good rhythm and certainly is very organized in such a big body. So again, I think that kind of slight disorganization behind would improve with strength and education. So I do think there's a
And
huge amount of
maturity.
potential
Yeah.
in terms of what you're seeing now is still a bit raw.
That's number 2 in the show jumper, 3 to 4-year-olds, Salou, Las Vegas. Back to Zorino stud now. Zorino Leiden. I've got Leiden on my sheet, but on the screen I see Landon. What are we going with? Landon.
I don't know.
Let's go for Landon. Zorino Landon, number 3. Consuelo Landel. Let's start with you, Candice.
So I love the Consuelos. I loved him when I saw him in Namibia myself, and he's bred a number of really fantastic jumpers, and as I've mentioned, really good dressage horses as well, because they've all had quite a lot of elasticity themselves, and that makes them very useful horses. And then on Landel, I've always enjoyed Landel on the mother lines. I think he normally makes beautiful types, and wow, that was fast. I hope we weren't supposed to judge confirmation of that.
We need to.
Oh, there we go, thank you. And then obviously on the thoroughbred line, we're talking Bold Ruler and Trocadero. Trocadero for me was certainly one of my highlights of the thoroughbred bloodline. So
Correct.
I'm very, you talk about Esplendor and Trocadero and Harry Hotspur, and those, he's one of the top.
Rogan.
Well, just the success of Consuelo means that you've got to look at every single Consuelo very seriously that you are presented. He's been so dominant in this country. And then Landel is a Landgraf. He's made some good jumpers. The Sing, the Bold Ruler through Sing is very interesting. Of course, Trocadero was an old celebrity, both in jumping and in racing.
Let's turn to you, Ryan, on the pedigree, and then we'll get your comments about movement.
Yeah, there's not much more to say about the pedigree. I think Candice and Rogan said a lot. The Sing, interesting. Adrian Brink had a thoroughbred that he jumped in the 130s. It was an Eliodor out of a Sing mare, and it was a very useful horse. And Land Earl, I agree, as the sire of the dam, he's produced a lot of good horses.
Comments about movement. Let's start with you again, Candice.
So typical Consuelo, quite, elastic, moving, quite rubbery, certainly would be useful enough for producing on a dressage line. I know these are jumpers, but it's always nice to know if they have a little bit scope on both sides. More than good enough walk, but for me, he has one of the more interesting canters. It's ground covering, it's balanced, it's got a lot more rubber, so I like his canter a lot.
So from the breeders, they say that he's super athletic, he's a clever youngster, his half-brother is currently in South Africa competing and doing very well, has a beautiful temperament. Now, they put the trainers Tanya Graham here, and you say, Rogan, from Pretoria, but those
Yes.
pictures are not Pretoria. So
No.
when would those horses move out of Namibia?
I presume they come down when the breeders are ready to hand them over. I think they arrive from Namibia at least backed. So somewhere between 3 and 4, from what I can tell.
Your comments about this horse, the way he moves?
Yeah,
Rogan, let's start with Rogan.
Yeah, he's very appealing. One would, first of all, look at the pedigree, you'd go there and look at him, and then secondly, he's very appealing.
And Ryan?
yes, I mean, I love the canter. I think he's elastic and balanced, and he's got scope in his canter. And when you see this video of him there, he's at his rawest of raw. He's still on the farm, and they grow up slowly there, but he just is quite eye-catching.
Yeah, I think with a little bit of imagination, you can foresee a good future for this horse.
Candice, did you use the word handy?
No, but I'll take that. Thank you.
I thought it was.
And I have been told his name is Landon, not Leia.
Okay, very good.
Okay, so that was number 3. Let's move on to number 4, Chachawelo. And we've spoken about this one, so this one's doubling up, is it, Ryan?
It is doubling up, and the pedigree, you know, when we look at a dressage horse, we look at the pedigree differently. We look for different stallions to appear, and here we're seeing the jumping coming through. Lucano Chachawelo, a son of Choco Blue, who's been number 1 in the world for years now, out of a Consuelo mare, and in himself more Consuelo in type. I mean, he looks more like a Consuelo, who was the top jumping stallion in Southern Africa for many years. The mare line, Euron M, was imported by Kevin Everly probably 20 years ago as a foal, and strong dressage there, Fleming through Le Carpo, but going back to Landgraaf, which we see the line breeding there with Consuelo. And then Rex Grannis, line bred to Retina Z, or through her full brother, was put to Retina Z, and that produced Rex Z, who's the sire of Rex Grannis. And then the thoroughbred Lancer going back, and then some Boerperd going back. So it's an interesting pedigree, but certainly enough jumping there to be promising, you know, as a prospect.
And don't leave out the great Lancer, who sired the South African jumping champion Compass Line, and was so well used by Ernie Davenport and later a little bit Frank Dittman. Lancer was very important.
Yes.
Candice, if you were looking at this horse and you had to choose, we've seen it in both the dressage now, the jumping, which side of the scale would you think is weighted more heavily?
I would really only like to make that decision if I had to see it under saddle, because I think it's a handy horse. He's very useful. There's nothing about him I don't like. There's a lot about him to like. And I think for dressage, really what would count is the rideability, and at the end of for jumping, the jump, which we're not seeing either of. So in terms of conformation, pedigree, and movement, I think he's more than interesting enough to consider for both.
Right, have you all jotted down your scores?
No, I'm behind.
Okay.
One more.
Do we need to have another look, or you?
No, I'm good.
Okay, right. So that was number 4, Chachawelo. Let's move on now to number 5, and this is La Sur Bellamore. And let's start with Rogan on pedigree.
Well, it's a relief this is not a dressage pedigree. Even though the sire line is dressage, that's not a dressage bred horse because of the strength of what's going on in the jumping line.
Ooh, Eliodor.
Yes,
There we go.
Definitely. Model Man, Jala.
Sadler's Wells.
Yeah, it's extraordinary.
Yeah.
And Ramirez
Oh,
Fury was a Romero lucky boy. So although it's Dutch and used in dressage, it's strongly jumping orientated. So again, a horse you've got a phone call, do you want to come and look at it? Oh, rather nice.
Ryan, over to you, pedigree. Let's start there.
Yeah, I saw the stallion, Le Sur Bulgari, down in the Cape, and he's a very impressive, very flashy stallion. And by Bashio, who was an imported Dutch stallion, very much dressage bred. And Bashio himself was a really impressive mover. But I agree with Rogan, the Ramirez Fury is very much a jumping blood. And although he stood at Masandi Stud, I think he bred some nice jumpers. I think that Ramiro B, that Bryce McCall bred, was probably Ramona B was one of the better ones.
Yes.
And then, of course, a very good, really lovely old thoroughbred jumping lines on the mare's line. And it's not that common to see now with the warm bloods a horse out of a straight, direct thoroughbred mare. We don't see it often anymore.
So the write-up from the owners and breeders. The breeder is Melanie Lustgarten of Le Sur Stud, and the owner is Jean-Marie Terblanche. They say this filly is easy-going. We have loaded her in a horse box without issues. She's clever and understands the in-hand work and free jumping already. The sharpness of the thoroughbred comes out in her walk, and we like her quick thinking. Her mother, we personally competed and jumped successfully. She has good feet and will mature to be around 16.3. Her name means the sister's beautiful love. And that she is indeed. La Sur Bellamore. Is it possible to look at confirmation off these videos? Is it fair? We've skimmed over the confirmation. We haven't really commented, but
I
not
think
not the easiest task.
It's
of
not
course.
ideal because, you know, firstly, each horse is presented slightly differently. So it's not standardized. That's actually what makes it most complicated. So if it was standardized, it would be better, but it is still nothing like quite in real life. But some are on grass, some are on sand, some are on, you know, slight uphill concrete, some not. But you can certainly see the problems, you know, which is the most important thing. So you would say nothing jumps out or something does jump out, and that's what's going to define good or not so good. But if you really had to want to evaluate the horses for, say, inspection purposes, I don't think this would be a satisfactory platform for that degree. But for this wonderful event, which integrates all the breeders throughout the country and viewers from all over the world, it's perfect.
Very quickly, all three judges, your impressions of movement, Ryan.
It moves very nicely. I think that it uses itself well. It's uphill, although the horse still looks quite immature for its age. But it certainly moved better than I thought it would when I saw it in the beginning, and then it was pleasantly surprising to see the trot and the canter on the horse. So, yeah, nice movement, nice canter.
Candice?
So she's very nice and limber and electric looking, which I think is thanks to that beautiful thoroughbred bloodline, and often can be a useful attribute for amateurs because they don't always have the power to drive these big warm bloods. I think she would be nice and thrifty to ride, but still has enough elasticity and range in her paces to make her useful. And everybody forgot to mention Larigot. That's some blast from the past.
Yes.
Where?
Larigot.
Behind the
Yes.
Ramirez Fury.
Look at that.
Goodness, no, gracious. Pay attention, people.
So it's a really
And-
interesting horse.
Just to back up, my colleagues have been around horses, bred horses, know their stuff. They're respected pros. And to refer to Gladwell's blink, the idea that an expert in Da Vinci statues can see a fraud or the real thing and can't even explain why they think and feel that from unbelievable amounts of exposure. So I think you underrate how much you get a feeling. We're not
Oh, yeah.
there. We might not pick up small faults, but I think that the impressions you get are probably vital and valid, and probably the most important thing. You like or you don't like. You'd buy or you wouldn't buy.
Absolutely.
Lassur Bellamore, number 5. So on to number 6 now. There's 7 in this class. 6 is what would you say? Ono. Ono.
Named after Yoko Ono because this is from J.J. Moorcroft in George, and he names a lot after musicians and bands.
Oh, that's good.
So-
He's doing rather well, I think. And
Yes.
my, what a nice impression and type. And guys, just looking at the pedigree, every single line, as you go far back, has produced top or totally top horses. This is a remarkable pedigree, I think.
Candice?
Yeah, I'm sharing Rogan's sentiments there, starting with Orlando, who certainly doesn't need to be introduced, and then Kidam Diravel, Cassini won, Optimum Thunder Wellington, Bambix, Landjunker. What more can you ask for? It's really,
Crazy good.
it is crazy good.
So while you have a look at the video, let me just go through the write-up from Jason Moorcroft. Ono M53 is a tall, athletic filly by Orlando out of the Chitara Quilita. Orlando earned the prestigious title Elite Ambassador in 2014, BWP Elite Ambassador 2014. Orlando's lineage combines two of the best sport horse stallions, Heartbreak and Darko. Her dam, Chitara Quilita, is by Courts out of an Optimum Thunder Wellington Bambix mare. Ono's grand dam is Elzu Odessa, who is a full sister to Elzu Omaru. How do you say that? Amaru, who competed in the 130 classes, the combination of Optimum Thunder Wellington Bambix, have produced many successful show jumpers in South Africa. Your impressions of this one as an individual, conformation, movement, type, shape? Rogan.
marvelous impression. Harmoniously built and very attractive. There's not much you'd change about him. Just watching him canter now in the video, very exciting.
Ryan, let's go to you.
Yes, I think it's a lovely type. I can see the quartz clips coming through quite strongly in the stamp of the horse, and we see it in the movement behind. It's very typical. And I think that the horse shows a lot of quality. Like, I think what you're seeing there is that there's a lot of quality on show.
And Candice.
An incredibly robust horse, especially for a mare. I mean, she's quite masculine actually for her age.
Good point.
So I think she's going to have a tremendous amount of power over time. I could see herself skipping through combinations quite easily in due course. I mean, for me, her overall impression, her pedigree and her conformation is a real highlight. And she's got 3 good ground gates. That would be my only criticism of her is I would like to see a bit more range in the canter, but I would hesitate to not reward her in the canter, because when you canter them free, they often do that. You know, they're not always quite as swinging as they would be in nature. But I mean, still, a really glamorous horse.
Beautiful pedigree to boot. Ono M53, number 6. That was the penultimate one in this class. We move on to the last. Number 7, Zerino Constantino. The breeder is Sylvia Kotza, again of the Zerino stud in Walvis Bay.
You all have to quickly look. Sorry to interrupt, Aidan, if I may jump in. At the very bottom line, there's a thoroughbred stallion called Parting Shot. And I think that was in the pedigree of Karen Manette's Eventers back in the day. And I think he's a son, you'll know, of Cannon Game. Extraordinary bit of thoroughbred there. It's a bit of history. Sorry, I had to bring that up.
Ryan, your impression of pedigree?
Yeah, and we've seen that Zerino have got some strong, pedigrees in their mares. We've seen Consuelo coming through again. I think we're going to see Consuelo coming through in the Namibian bred horses' pedigrees for the next 20 years. But nice to see the Wunderbar there. We like Wunderbar on the mare line. And going back, Anschluss onto the thoroughbred.
Why do you say that on the mare line? Why do you reiterate? Why do you emphasize?
I think there have been a lot of really good horses that have come out of Wunderbar mares. More good jumpers from Wunderbar mares than by Wunderbar himself. But then possibly also because the mares always come through later in the pedigree than the direct descendants. And then Quaid is an imported seaman that they've brought in. You know, they're quite lucky in Namibia. They can still access the German seamen. We can't here because of the embargo that we have on importing horses and seamen from Germany for the last 12 years. So they're quite fortunate, and I think that it's nice to see, where we can't access that German blood directly, but we can, via Namibia, we can get horses that are bred by really good imported seamen from Germany.
So while you take a look at the screen, the movement from the breeder, there's not a lot of Kidam's Reuben blood in South Africa, so we are pleased to have this gentle giant with us. He is showing very promising movement and scope. He, of course, is male. And you've had a look at the movement. Let's talk about that, starting with you, Candice.
So I think his canter's his highlight. He's certainly also quite immature for his age. I would account it a little bit to his age, but also could have a bit more length of neck, a little flat over the top line, but certainly doesn't come through. The canter is rhythmical, balanced, symmetrical. Even the trot is quite elastic moving. So, but again, maybe could attribute it to that Consuelo. I certainly love the Wunderbar mother or father line on dressage. They were very successful on the father line. Sorry, Ryan, but maybe not in the dressage so much, but made for wonderful rideability, even though I know the Wachmanns used to like to do handstands and could be a little bit tricky. The Wunderbars were absolutely wonderful.
Correct, they were
but,
easier.
You know, certainly when it comes to jumping, I'm always fascinated to see what the canter looks like, because that's really what needs to get you to the base of that fence.
Yes.
Your impressions, Rogan?
I'll just go back on the Wunderbar story. We always liked it on the dam line, and Wunderbars came 2 ways, hot or cold, and the cold ones were a bit one-paced and phlegmatic. Not unkind, but but on the mother side, and Wunderbar fillies were always hot, so you could go a long way with them. This is a very nice horse.
Very nice.
Your impression, Ryan, overall?
Yeah, a super type. He's a substantial horse. He looks like he's got a lot of scope in his canter, and hopefully that translates into the jumping. I think that, we're looking at a jumping type here, so we can't really assess, we're not able to assess their jump at all. But certainly from the way he looks balanced in his canter, and he looks like he's powerful, and it looks like there's some scope in that canter, and you would expect that to come through, hopefully, in the jump as well.
That concludes.
And this is only the 3 to 4 category,
Yes.
so there's so much going to come.
Yes, absolutely.
So that does conclude this class, the 3 to 4-year-old jumpers. Zerino Edelweiss, Saluz, Las Vegas, Zerino Landon, Chachawelo, Lasur, Bellamore, Ono, M53, and Zerino Constantino made up the 7 horses in this class. So we're going to call our ladies in to come and fetch our score sheets. And I believe we have some results from the first class that are coming through. But before we get there, big thank you once again to our sponsors, Rotaflow, Equispro, Talkcraft, Manador, Equine Librium, Equifeeds, the Compton House Stud, Midfeeds, Iconic Sires, HQ Magazine, African Horse Fly Spray, AFM Impact Church, Christian Centre here in Midrand, Stud Guard, and Candice Hobday Equestrian Enterprises. Big thank you to all of them. Let's now take a look at the results of the first class. Drum roll, please. That was the dressage bred 3 to 4-year-olds. And walking away with the winner's check of 1,000 Rand. The winner is Chevelle Dunsont Bercuse. Well done. Number 2 takes away the winner's purse. In second place to Edelsheim Sir Lawrence, number 5. Well done to those two. So those are the results of the first class, and also receiving gifts. First place voucher from African Horse Fly Spray and a 1-litre Stud Guard to the winner. Well done. Moving on to our next class. This is the under 3-year-olds, dressage bred. Over the page we go. And if we could queue up our first horse. Are we ready up there in the production booth? We've got to go to our first horse in class number 3. And there it is. Edelsheim Don Laban by Daddy Cool. Let's go to Candice. Pedigree.
So I'm a big fan of Daddy Cool. Last year I was hugely impressed by the offspring that were presented. They were consistently sporty and athletic and elastic and uphill moving. So I'll be very curious to see what this horse presents us with today. But goodness, it is a really ugly age, 2 to 3. I always think maybe they should skip that age group. And then on the mother line, again, the Del Piero, which is Donahal and Macho, which comes through from the Anglo-Arab, which is wonderful, and then Landgraf, and again, our hallmark. So that I think we've seen that mare in the previous class, but this is Daddy Cool and not Son and Tanset, to my understanding.
Ryan.
Yes, that Landgraf mare, the grey genes come through strongly again. It looks like this one's also going grey. Daddy Cool is a super stallion. I was at a jumping show, I think it was a couple of years ago, and Dominique was riding him, cantering him in the warm-up arena, and he just stood out because he just had such a different look about him to other horses, and he really had a beautiful canter. And he is a stamping stallion. We see really the same qualities coming through in his progeny again and again.
Bit about the stud and the owners. Peter and Elizabeth Muller. Edelsheim Stud is one of the oldest small studs presently in South Africa and is based in Pretoria. Avid dressage riders Peter and Elizabeth Muller imported Del Piero frozen semen from Germany. La Diva is one of his mares from that sire, put to Sellerhoff's Daddy Cool. They have a nice mover who is refined and sensitive. We've had a look at some of the movement. Let's stick with Ryan first.
It's quite a different picture when we start looking at 2-year-olds compared to 3-year-olds. But the horse looks like he's got a bit of range, you know, in the canter and in the trot. We're seeing that there's, you know, there's no restriction in the shoulder, and the hind leg is active, and the horse is quite balanced, especially for a 2-year-old. He carries himself well and with quite a lot of suppleness.
Rogan.
Yeah, he's interesting because of his juvenile stage. Very interesting, very powerful. There's so much to come. You get a sense of potential.
Candice.
So I certainly think he should be really good in the rideability, because as he's presented there, he certainly seems to be quite vigilant and responsive, and light-footed. He's compared to the Sonnentatzer with a similar breeding, he's not quite as elastic, but I think often at this age, and that photo shows it, they're a little high behind and a little bit downhill, and often they come up in the later years, and it must be pretty hard running around on your forehand like that. So I think for his age, he is a total acceptable stamp of horse with 3 good gaits. He's organized enough in his body, but I would love to see him presented on this show next year, because I think he would have a totally different impression.
He is the only horse in this class, so he will walk away with a first prize 500 Rand, 250 Rand AHFS voucher as well. And who wins the prize for the correct pronunciation of the name? Are we going for Don Laban or Don Laban?
Laban.
Laban.
Don Laban.
Don
Okay.
Laban. Thank you. Rogan, you're the winner.
Does he get the 1,000 Rand voucher?
Laban had a huge movement school, dance school. I can't remember America or UK or Europe, but
Don Laban. Okay, so we're moving on to our next class, the under 3-year-old jumpers. These are 2 to 3 years old, and first up is, now we do have, after Game of Thrones, quite a few Khaleesi's in the ring, but it's a different spelling. How would you say this, Ryan?
Khaleesi, I would
Khaleesi
guess.
as well, but not the mother of the dragons. This is the other twin sister, Khaleesi. This is by Lacano Chakwelo. Rogan, the pedigree?
yeah, exciting. One line of dressage, but that Sandra Hitsong went both ways, so you keep open-minded about that. But great to see Beauveneur there, and then wonderful thoroughbred blood, fair season. We've already met Lacano Chakwelo, so yeah, exciting pedigree.
A little bit about the write-up from the owner and breeder, Trish Knott, who's based in the Western Cape. Khaleesi is a proper gentle giant. He has an incredible temperament. He's going to be very large. He's already standing 17 hands, and he's not even 2.5 years old. For a big, heavy horse, he is light on his feet, but will definitely be of a quieter demeanor than his full sister. He has already attended his first show a couple of weeks ago, being the Young Horse Performance Series here in the Cape, where Greg Goss judged. He won his first class, then went on to win the championship class, went through to Supreme Champs, where he got a bit full of himself. He handled the show like a gentleman, and I think we have a lovely, level-headed boy, and cannot wait to see him under saddle. Khaleesi sire is owned by my sister-in-law, Michelle Knott. Impressions, Candice.
Well, he's remarkably masculine for his age. I mean, it's quite incredible to think that he's 2 to 3 years if you compare him to the previous horse. So he's very far along in his maturing process. I think he's got a very deliberate way in his mechanic and comes through in the walk, trot, and the canter. And I think with enough training to produce the suppleness, I think, you know, it will be a super nice riding horse for presenting on jumping at some point.
I have just been told by the producers in my ear that, in fact, this Khaleesi is named after Sia, our rugby captain.
Okay, that's well, and he
I was
looks
way
like,
off the mark.
He looks like him
Yes.
as well. He's bred for rugby.
Ryan, your impressions?
Yeah, he's a very well-developed 2-year-old. And I kind of remember him from last year's show, and he was a very well-developed yearling then. And he's flashy, and he's typey. And I think that in terms of, he's quite a glamorous 2-year-old. He's a really nice looking, appealing, attractive horse.
And Rogan.
Yeah, totally, just all to like about him. Very exciting.
That was Kolisi, number 1 in the 2 to 3-year-old show jumpers. Number 2, there it is on your screen. This is Martini Ever Scott, male, by Elvis Tapata. Let's roll the video. So the owner and breeder is Claire Martin of the Martini stud. Eddie, as he is affectionately known, is bred out of Callagho for Scotty, who was very successful with Kelly O'Connor up to the 1m30 level and a winner of the Young Horse Performance Series. For Scotty has already produced one son, Lara Scott, who competes in the 1m20 classes now and was winner of the 5-year-old Young Horse Performance Series in 2020. Elvis Tapata is a top international stallion, successful at the 1m60 level himself, as well as the sire to many 1m50 jumpers and some good eventers as well. Eddie is an exceptionally tall youngster, already standing 16-1 with a superb temperament. He is offered for sale by Martini Stud. Let's start with you, Candice.
So again, if you kind of compare this horse to the previous one, he looks more his age group. He's quite fine and sporty, really blood type. I like the long lines. Got a good hind leg on him. Certainly well balanced, and I like it when they've still got to mature into themselves a little bit, because you often end up with a slightly more athletic type in future.
Ryan, pedigree, movement, impressions, confirmation?
Yeah, he's a son of Elvis Tapata, and Elvis Tapata's been a very successful stallion, owned by the Demuse stud, and was ridden by Colleen de Brabander, who's the daughter, in the 160 classes. He's a son of Diamant de Simile, Darko, Kidam, Derval, Furioso, and funny enough, they're all bays until you get to Furioso. So that Furioso blood we're seeing doubled up here, coming via For Pleasure, Furioso 2. So we're seeing some duplication there of the Furioso further back in the 5th generation. For Joy was really a super stallion for South Africa, and I have not seen a bad specimen from that stallion. And of course, the mother Callagho for Scotty jumped 130s with Kelly O'Connor out of a good thoroughbred mare, Scottish lady. And I think this is a modern type, a very modern type, even though Elvis Tapata himself is a very Belgian stamp of horse, and you can sort of see a lot of Darko in him. He doesn't always give that stamp of horse, and I think with this very blood type mare, it's a good mating.
And a bit, Ryan, we'll stay with you on Claire and the Martini stud.
Yeah, they're down the road from us, and she breeds 3 or 4 every year, and she sells very few of them, and she rides a lot of them very successfully, and generally the only ones she sells are the ones that get big, because she doesn't want a horse that's too big. And I think certainly if I had somebody looking for a young jumping prospect, I'd certainly take them out to go and look at some of her horses that she does offer from time to time.
Rogan, impressions, make, shape, type, movement?
Well, you see Scottish Lady there, the dam of Callagho for Scotty, and she jumped opens herself. So when you get a thoroughbred mare who's that's at least adequately bred or adequately well bred, Noble Chieftain, the very bottom line, you take that seriously. And for Joy mated very well with thoroughbred. So you get a good dam, put to Elvis Tapata, you basically can't miss.
So, judges are putting down their scores for number 2 in the 2 to 3-year-old jumpers. Martini Ever Scott, Eddie as he's known. We'll move on now to number 3. O Laventador. And this is a stallion.
Okay, but I see a
I think
conflict
that's
here.
that's the wrong pedigree.
It's the wrong pedigree for this horse.
But that's fine. We can run through the actual pedigree, because I do have the actual pedigree in front of me. So Ola Ventador was bred by Michelle Nordier, by Eagles Lusaka, who was a son of Lassiter. And then the mother was a thoroughbred mare, Karama, who she rode successfully up to the 130s by Cruisenstern out of a Flower Power mare. So some very interesting old blood thoroughbred jumping blood coming through there. Karama was a really good competitive mare, and it's an interesting combination with Lusaka by Lassiter out of a Casanova mare. In Casanova, I think Lisa Williams rode in the 140s and gave a very good stamp of horse, and I think we'll see that through Eagles Casablanca, who's the mother of Lusaka.
I'll let you take a look at the video, Ryan. Olaventador is a very sweet boy and loves attention, as he was very spoiled after being born. He's very light, and his canter is very uphill. He has a superb loose jump and is very brave too. Rogan, over to you.
Yeah, we're fans of Lassiter. Ryan is right, the thoroughbred blood in there, Cruisenstone, Flower Power, Abernant, big game. That's royalty in terms of South African show jumping blood. And looking, this is such a hard age to evaluate horses, but loads to like.
Candice.
I sort of share Rogan's sentiments. Would love to see him here next year because he is a real little baby here. But he certainly looks like he's got a wonderful character and also very lithe and nimble in his mechanic. I think for me his canter is his best gait.
Yes.
Quick but balanced, rhythmical. I quite like, I think that's the blood coming through off the thoroughbred lines, that sort of really sporty canter. And, really also modern type, which is also nice to see.
Olaventador, that is the penultimate one in the 3-year-old, 2- and 3-year-old jumpers. Last, and Ryan, you were talking about Jason Moorcroft and...
Yeah, J.J. Moorcroft, yeah.
The fact that he likes to name a few after we saw Yoko. Oh no, now we've got Pink, M53.
100%.
Entertaining naming.
But
He's got a theme, and a lot of the breeders do get a theme. I know Karen Koop at Rivendell Stud, she'll take a theme for the year, and whatever her theme is, she'll name all her foals.
What do you like to do?
I don't know, we like to be something that's original, but that the announcers can pronounce one day. I think that's a big thing. I think we'd love to, some of these French names are great until they get massacred in the show ring by the announcers.
You're not pointing fingers at anybody.
No, I'm not.
No,
But
Totally.
no fingers being pointed.
But yeah, Parko is a well-known son of Darko. He jumped in the Olympics successfully. Attack Z as the sire of his dam, and more importantly, Diamonds Kalaya by Kanan as the mother. And Kanan as the sire of the dam is gold in the pedigree. And then the Carrick and the Wunderbar going back. And then if you go look at Walido by Wunderbar, she was a full sister to Laissez-Faire, who bred a lot of good jumpers, including I had a son of that by Rivaldor, called Brannick Bellini D'Or, bred by the Brannick Stud, but there was also Beluga that Shirley Kemp jumped in the 130s. That was by Bahadur, out of the full sister to Walido, so a very strong mare line as well.
Well, J.J. Moorcroft, based near George in the Western Cape. Pink 53 is by Parko out of Diamonds Kalaya. Pink is a special filly who combines the blood of Darko through Parko and Canan. Parko's side, Darko, is an ambassador for the Belgian stud book and has been on the World Stallion Show jumping sires worldwide for several years. His dam sire, Attack Z, is from the famous Alme motherline. Attack Z went to the Olympics like Darko and Parko himself. Pink's dam, Diamonds Kalaya, is by Canan and is a line bred to Voltaire. Canan carries blood from all the important jumping breeds in Europe: Voltaire, Furioso, Nemador, Gotthard, Fawn, La Mexico, all great progenitors of modern jumping breeding. This combination makes her a real asset for the stud in the future, for the future of our stud. Rogan, let's go to your impressions.
Again, loads to like about this. Functional, workmanlike, and harmoniously made. Appealing. Carries its tail. Lots to like.
And Candice.
I think the Kanan has come through and stamped very strongly. Beautiful pedigree, Parker, Kanan, Carrick, Wunderbar for me were two super rideable horses, and actually Gravier as well. So I think if that rideability comes through onto this super athletic and sporty horse, I think you will definitely have a show jumper.
So that's the last in this class. Let's now, before we move on, go to some results. I believe we've got some results coming in as the judges put down their scores for that class. We've just seen the 2 to 3 year old jumping breds. Right, going on to the results of class 4B, the 3 to 4 year old jumpers. And here, first prize 1,200, second prize 800, third prize 250 Rand. Gifts for first place, 250 Rand African horse fly spray voucher and a 5-litre stud guards oil. Right, and the winner is number 6, Yoko Ono M53, who comes out the tops in the 3 to 4 year old jumpers. So well done to Ono M53 first, second place to Zarino Landon, and third place to Zarino Constantino. In that class, congratulations. So once again, just to recap, Ono M53, the winner. Second place to Zarino Landon, and third place to Zarino Constantino. And then we'll move on to the result of class 3A, the 2 to 3 year old dressage bred, and of course only one horse in that class, Adelsheim, Don, how did we say? Don Laban. Don Laban.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Don Laban. All right, so that's the results of that class, and we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, more action here from the South African Warm Blood Horse Society Virtual Young Stock Show for 2022.
wanted to build and create an exciting jump and filler, but never had the right product? With our multi-purpose Roto Veti, we have the solution for you. This proudly South African product, made by equestrians for equestrians, will allow you to build amazing rules, fillers and wings for your jumps and gymnastics. Our award-winning Roto Vetis are designed with your safety in mind, with its rounded corners, interlocking pins, and brightly colored options ensures an affordable, safe and lightweight product that can be quickly assembled and taken down. Our Roto Vetis come with a plug for an easy way to fill your Roto Veti with sand or water if you need to weigh it down on those windy days. The durable and sturdy construction ensures years of use thanks to the UV8 technology. Roto Vetis are sold in sets of 2 jump blocks, including 4 interlocking pins. Each block is 45 by 40 by 14 centimeters. The best thing is you can order your Roto Vetis directly from us. Contact us via our Facebook page, email, or contact number provided.
It is so, I think, so hard to breed a dressage horse.
Welcome back to all of our viewers on the South African Warm Blood Horse Society Virtual Young Stock Show for 2022. A big shout out to all of our sponsors who have made this evening possible: the South African Warm Blood Horse Society, Equus Pro, Talkcraft, Manador, Exclusive Equine Management, Equine Librium, Equifeeds, the Compton House Stud, Midfeeds, Iconic Sires, HQ Magazine, African Horse Fly Spray, AFM Midrand, Impact Christian Center, Stud Guard, and Candice Hobday Equestrian Enterprises. Rotaflow as well. Well done to all of them for bringing you these pictures. We move on now, team, to class number 2, the 1 to 2 year old dressage bred. And if we can cue our pictures, first up is Cheval Dansant Diorella. Over to you, Candice.
Right. Okay. Well, we're still waiting patiently for our form to show, but beautiful pedigree. Daddy Cool, which we've spoken about earlier. Stunning Hanoverian stallion that we have the honor of having to breed with in South Benicio himself was a crack of a horse that we were lucky enough to have here, with his own beautiful pedigree. Then De Niro, Weltmeier, Brentano too. I mean, you can't really ask for anything more thorough in terms of dressage bloodlines. So beautiful pedigree.
Before we carry on, a big welcome to all of our viewers. I am told in my earpiece that we've got viewers tuning in as far afield as Greece, England,
Wow.
all over the globe we are tonight on YouTube. So welcome to our viewers wherever they may be. If you've just tuned in, Cheval Dansant Diorella, the first in the dressage bred 1 to 2 year olds. Ryan, you've had a look at the pedigree.
Yes. Yeah, a pedigree, there are no holes in that dressage pedigree.
So take a look at the pictures of Diorella being put through her paces. Diorella is the full sister to Cheval Dansant de Machelet, known as Patrick, who won this category in his age group last year. This filly is pure breeding gold. She's line bred to iconic dressage stallions Donnerhall, Weltmeier, and Laurie's Crusader. Her paddock value is as priceless as her dressage potential. Benita never disappoints with her offspring. She produces particularly correct foals every time, and this filly is no exception. She's very elegant, feminine, leggy. Ella was going through a particularly awkward phase at 17 months old when we went out to do the videos and photographs for this event, but her quality is nevertheless quite evident. She's going to make someone very happy one day. Rogan.
Yeah, doesn't she just fill up your eye and dazzle you? Very exciting.
Breeder is Sue Boerta of the Cheval Dansant Stud, and the owner is Luzon Slubbert. And Candice, your impressions, movement?
So certainly I think in terms of type and conformation, a really exquisite foal. Oh, well, weanling, yearling, whichever age group she falls in now. She's glamorous, she's elegant, she's sporty. Obviously the flaxen tail is an added bonus because it is beautiful when you have such beautiful markings like that. 3 balanced gaits. In the end, would like to see a little more real elasticity, but she's actually remarkably uphill for this age as well. So I think this will only improve as she gets older, but it's a real beautiful, beautiful horse.
Your impressions, Ryan? Make, shape, type, movement,
Yeah,
conformation?
She's certainly got presence, and I think that's one of the things that dressage horses, they look for when they breed them, is that the horse has that a little bit of that look of eagles about them. So when they go in down the center line, they catch your eye straight away. And she really is a lovely looking filly. A little bit naughty of them to slow-mo the trot video. We're not going to give them any extra points for the slow-mo. But I think that when Sue Buerter bought the mare on the Callow auction, the mother of this, it was one of those weak moments, and it was one of those things where they say, just buy the horse and you won't regret it. And I don't think she is regretting it.
So that's number 1, Cheval Dansant Diorella in the dressage 1 to 2-year-olds. Let's move on now to number 2 in this class, Watermark Just Jubilant. This is a colt. Let's go back to you, Candice. Pedigree on paper.
So Justice de Jeu himself is beautifully bred, and he is a gorgeous stallion. So that's Johnson, and then Florencio 1, who's Floriston 1, who obviously I know very well because my Grand Prix mare Felina was a Floriston 1. And then on the mother line, Fitch, who goes back to Uphill, who was himself also a fantastic stallion. And then Euron M, it's super to see him coming through again on the mother line. And Winterstar, who, wow, you know, that's quite a long time ago that we had old Winterstar presenting on the dressage lines. So it's beautiful old pedigrees from in terms of South African lines that we're seeing come through here. And very exciting to see Justice's foals starting to present on events like this.
The owner and the breeder is Yvonne McCarthy of Watermark Stud. She says that this young gentleman has a temperament to match his bloodline. You just need to meet him to fall in love with him. He's uncomplicated, level-headed, and loves his 4-legged friends as much as his 2-legged ones. Nothing seems to faze him. He's surprisingly active for his size and certainly won't need much leg. He looks like he is going to be tall and brave. Beautiful picturesque setting there, Ryan. Where is the Watermark Stud?
I'm not 100% sure, but I
Near
think they're in the
Bethlehem.
Free State. Are they in the Free State?
In the Free State near Bethlehem. Looks like a lovely place.
Yvonne McCarthy, I think.
Your impressions, movement as you watch him going around?
I think that he's an immature horse. I can definitely see the Fitch coming through in the stamp of the horse, the type. He looks more like Fitch than Justice. Justice is a full brother to the stallion Firestone, who features quite prominently in breeding in the Netherlands. So it's valuable blood. And then the Euron M further down is also quite an underutilized stallion by Fleming that gives a lot of type. And I think that we just need to see this horse grow a bit more and mature. I think he's needs time to mature before we're going to see really him develop into what he can be.
Rogan.
I think he's so exciting, so scopy, so interesting. Use the adjective breathtaking.
And Candice, your final thoughts after you've seen the pictures of him in motion?
So I think that this is going to be a very malleable horse to work with because he's got 3 good ground gates, and for sure in terms of their comment of him being very workable, I think that should come through in his rideability in due course. And as we all know, in terms of dressage, the rideability and trainability is actually where it's really going to count. You need fundamentally an uphill, and you need an elastic horse with good rideability, and then, you know, the sky's kind of the limit.
Number 2, Watermark Just Jubilant. Judges are jotting down their scores. Let's move on to number 3, the final horse in this class, this category, the 1 to 2-year-old dressage bred. And this is Dolce Vita. And we'll stay with Ryan.
Okay, so the sire Mythos Dionysus a son of Danzas out of a thoroughbred mare by Sal Marez, all fired up. So, well-known lines, jumping lines actually there. And Danzas was very successful with Dominique Tardin overseas, and then she brought the horse back to South Africa, and he bred for a few seasons. And then Danseus by Z Ice Dollar, a son of Dollarit. I think Z Ice Dollar is still alive. He must be in his 30s now.
Wow.
And he was quite an old school stallion that was produced as a dressage horse and was very fertile and very sound and bred quite a few horses. He didn't have a lot of opportunity, but he bred fairly consistently for years and years. And then going even further back, Hakahana Annabelle by Attila. That really is foundation stock in warm blood breeding in South Africa.
The breeder and owner is Yanni Kutsia. Says this horse has a lovely temperament. She's nearly too bold. Johnny bought the mother from Suzanne Burr, hence the old lines in the dam line. Over to you, Rogan.
Isn't she leggy and elegant, and a high-quality walk? So hard to know where they're headed, but you're drawn to this, and it's very appealing. Lots and lots to like about this horse.
And the final thoughts from you, Candice.
A very balanced and well-organized foal that is, I think, going to be principally very flamboyant in the end. Coming back to the pedigree, that Hakahana Annabelle was a full sister to Hakahana Ulrich, who went overseas with my sister, actually, and it was a beautiful mare. I remember her. So again, quite old bloodlines on the mother line, going all the way back to Anschluss. But I think for me, the real highlight, other than being a total picture of a foal, is her walk. At this stage, she has one of the best walks I've seen tonight.
Yes, agreed.
That concludes this class with Dolce Vita, number 3 in the 1 to 2 year old dressage breds. So we're going to move on, I believe, to our next class, and this is now the jumping bred and 1 to 2 year olds. And we start this section with Mythos Hera. This is a daughter of Diamond's Hoku, and let's start with you, Ryan, as we ask some of our ladies to come in and grab your score sheets. Oh, before we start, I believe we've got some results, do we?
Yes.
Okay, you want to steal that one? Okay, where are we? Right, okay. Results are very close. In the 3-year-old jumping, in the class 3B, the 2 to 3 year old jumpers. First place on 228 points. I'm not going to say who it is, but it was very close. Second place was on 220.5. We had a 219 and a 209. So a very, very tight race here in the 2 to 3 year old jumping breds. But the winner, and congratulations to JJ Moorcroft, Pink M53 comes out the winner, the second winner for the Moorcroft stud there on 228 points in the 2 to 3 year old jumping bred. Second place goes to Khaleesi in the second, 220.5. Congratulations to all those winners. That was class 3B. Let's see what they walk away with. The winner walks away, well, bragging rights. That's the most important, but 1,000 Rand for the win, 600 Rand for second. Winner gets a 250 Rand AHFS voucher and a 200 milliliter Stud Guard, bottle of Stud Guard. So well done, Pink and Yoko Ono, tonight's winners there. Okay, so let's move on to the 1 to 2 year old show jumpers, and there is Mythos Hera. Over to you, Rogan.
Well, isn't this an interesting pedigree? Candice and I are both raising our eyebrows. You see the horse, the dam side there, Ursula, daughter of Dactoville, Swedish warm blood there going way back. That's massively interesting.
He was actually stabled at Ornstepoort for a while, and they had
Correct.
that stallion display where they whipped me out of my dressage brooks and asked me to jump him, and it was rather hilarious, the ending, to be honest. But it was a super rideable, sweet horse.
What was the ending? I have to know.
Well, no. I'm not telling you if you don't remember it.
It was all about Brooks. So interesting. seeing For Pleasure there as the great grandsire. This is a really interesting pedigree. Some old-fashioned blood, and you'd say it's a mixed pedigree, wouldn't you?
Yes, very much so.
Ryan?
Yeah, Mythos stud, Shanae Gerber, bred with Diamond's Hoku, which was bred by the now defunct Diamond stud. Hokato managed to jump up to the 150s with Nariska Prince Lou before being sold on. I think Wotan's Broodor was also an imported stallion that also competed at open level. And then we see Liquid Acid going back, a son of Gratuity, that's some really old warm blood. But yeah, I agree with Rogan, the double Dactoville. I mean, Dactoville was really foundation when the original warm bloods were imported to South Africa years ago from Sweden. Dactoville was one of the stallions, and it's rare to see the blood still coming through. But having said that, I mean, I think so far we've seen a lot of really old blood coming through in the mare lines tonight.
Shanae from Mythos Stud says, here is an absolute dream horse with 4 long, flashy stockings and highlights in her tail. Apart from her lavish markings, the 17-month yearling graces us with the sweetest, most lovable and willing temperament. Her impeccable pedigree and performance history in her lineage gives us high hopes for the future. Her dam competed 1.30 meter before being sent to stud and boasts a unique bloodline of the thoroughbred cross Swedish warm blood show jumpers combined with 2 grandsires, Landjonker and Optimum van der Wellington. Her grandsire on her sire's side is an imported stallion, Hokato, by the famous For Pleasure Olympic 1.60 meter horse For Pleasure, out of a successful staccato mare who competed 1.40 meter. Hokato himself competed 1.50 and has passed his Black Beauty looks and scope to hear his sire Diamond's Hoku. So, you've had a look at the movement. Let's start with you, Rogan.
Fascinated about the pedigree with certainly Candice will remember the Jemani horses, Jemani Prince Zayani there in the 1, 2, 3, 4th, 5th generation. Fascinating. And then lots of classical South African blood, Capriccio, Mayfair Wunderbar, Vendizi, Dollarit.
He's on the
So
next
classic Hanoverian blood mixed with some Holsteiner, and then all the way up to some French blood. I'm Special de Muse.
Well, you've jumped the gun a little bit there, Rogan. We were still on Hera talking about the movement, and you've jumped to the pedigree.
Beg pardon, sorry.
But we'll come back to that in a second. So let's just go to Candice quickly on Hera's movement.
Well, I mean, it is an incredibly dashing and flashy horse. So I think, even though he's been presented for jumping, I certainly think he would make a wonderful all-rounder. He's got 3 very deliberate gaits. In the end, would like to have seen a little bit more elasticity, but again, it's such a funny age to really show them. Certainly balanced, easy on both left and right rein, very organized in the mechanic, which I liked a lot. And I think, once he's matured out of it as a type, really beautiful. It's a really interesting horse. I like him a lot.
Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, he's eye-catching for sure. I think, or should I say she's eye-catching?
Yes, she.
We're looking at essentially now foals and weanlings. And so I think that we expect them to be light on their feet, but also when they move into that weanling phase, they can start to look a little bit scruffy sometimes, but she's certainly eye-catching. And I think that Shanae's done a good job with her mating. She seems to find a way of putting the stallions and the mares together and to get a consistently good result. And I think that's what we're seeing with this horse.
Right, so we're going to skip over the page now. Mythos Hera from Shanae. That was number 1. Going on to the Rivervale stud. Rivervale, I'm certainly special. Back to you, Rogan.
Thanks. I can repeat my fascination about some Arab blood and some old classic Hanoverian blood. So going down the bottom, Dollarit, one of the early celebrated stallions in Namibia, son of Don Carlos. Then Vendizi, that's the FW line through Venderkruis, Hanoverian. This is amazing because you see so many names here that you know. Davenport and Little Mayfair from Beresford Manning, Capriccio from Capital. Fascinating, and then top blood on the top side. I'm Special to Muse. So well done, Cheryl Pert. This is really interesting. Can't wait to watch the horse, and here we are watching it.
While you guys watch the horse, the owner, Maxine Spalding, says, having dreamt about an emerald baby since seeing him jump with Harry Smulders at Rio in 2016, my dream finally became a reality when I managed to purchase my very own lookalike. Although Ziggy is a big boy standing at over 15 hands at 15 months old, he is light and elastic on his feet, which we are hoping transpires into successful eventing and show jumping career ahead. His dam, Rivervale Certainty, competed in two-star eventing where she showed her courage and willingness to keep trying. Certainty is from Davenport Windfall, of which Cheryl Pote owns two mares, Mayfair Wunderbar, Vendizi Dollarite, Rivervale Romance, and Rivervale Certainty. Grant Langley had a stallion son, Preamble, that he jumped in 1 meter 50 classes out of the same mare. Ziggy sire is Rivervale I'm All Yours, sired by I'm Special to Muse, who needs no introduction. He is highly rated in Europe and won numerous accolades. He is careful, has scope and rideability. His sire, Emerald von der Reitershof, won World Cups, Nations Cups, and is by the legendary Diamant de Semele out of a Carthago line. The dam Walnut the Muse has competed at top level, also with Harry Smulders, with an incredible track record. We so look forward to what the future holds. Ryan.
It's I think interesting for me to see, because Rivervale Studs, I'm All Yours, is a stallion that Cheryl believes very strongly about, and I'm Special to Muse seems to be producing the goods now in Europe. But interesting, the mare by Demero, which was semen that was imported by Jenny Wiley, she had LJ's stud, a good son of Ramiro, and we see quite a bit of that blood. And then Cheryl believes very strongly in the Anglo-Arab blood going back on that mare line. It's a mare that she believes very strongly in. And then Rivervale Certainty competed as a 4-star eventer with Douglas Welsh. So there's certainly lots of courage and lots of jumping in that pedigree.
And from the video?
It's definitely going to be a flashy, tall horse. I think it's going to have scope. That mare also produced Parker's son, who jumped up to the opens with Martin Swanepoel. And so it's a proven mare line, and I think we're going to, it's going to be a big horse. It's not going to be a little horse. And it looks like there's scope in its movement. So I think hopefully it'll grow up to have a lot of scope and be a successful jumper. I think certainly it's going to be a bold horse.
And final thoughts from you, Candice?
I think it's a really enchanting colt that he looks extremely attentive in his personality. He was reliable in every moment that he was presented. I love the fact that he's so long-lined. Nothing about him is out of proportion, even though he is at quite a gangly stage. He's got good top line, good length legs, stands over a good amount of ground with 3 very balanced gaits. So nothing is out of sync, where the walk is extraordinary and the cant is tight. Everything matches. So I think it'll be a very exciting prospect in the end.
Number 3 in this class is Mythos Isla. The owner is Louise Kotzer. The breeder is Shanae Gerber. This young lady is from well-established jumping bloodlines on both her sire and dam lines, boasting with I'm Special to Muse and Contact van der Heffing on the sire side alone. Kidam de Revel, who needs no introduction on the dam line. Isla is a confidence and bold filly with above-average intelligence. Her sire, Diamonds Incognito, who is owned by the Mythos stud, has stamped her with a very pliable mind and temperament based on her athletic and balanced paces. Isla shows exciting promise for any discipline in the competitive ring. And let's go to you, Rogan, for a little bit about the pedigree.
Well, as we're talking about the pedigree, just looking at how glamorous this horse is, so interesting. Diamonds Incognito out of Alchemy's Kadermi, and she was a 1 meter 50 mare, if ever you saw, and very scopy mare. Of course, Quartz to Clips, then Wunderbar. We're talking about the dam side now. Quartz to Clips, Wunderbar, and you see Bo Duke, which is American Saddler. and I'm happy to say none of that is visible here.
Candice.
We do love you, Rogan. I mean, what a really, really
Beautiful, eh?
enchanting mare as well. I mean, she really is beautiful, typey and flashy, great top line. I mean, certainly got enough movement to be interesting as well. Good hind legs. I like her hind legs. They show a lot of activity and engagement. I think, for me, the pedigree is a bit interesting the way that they've put it together, but I certainly, obviously, I'm Special de Muse is fantastic, and Courts d'Eclipse is wonderful, and I love Wunderbar, so that works for me, and I think this will be a super interesting prospect for the future.
Mr. Andrews.
Yes, it's a very attractive youngster that Mythostat has produced here. Diamonds Incognito is a really very modern stallion. I'm Special de Muse tends to modernize them. We've seen the previous horse by a different son of I'm Special de Muse, but that Alchemy's Kadurmi was also a modern mare. And then we see a little bit of the Courts d'Eclipse coming through in Phoenix Quantica. Roger Hessen bred that mare out of Font Winter's Eve, and Font Winter's Eve was ridden by the late Eugene Almeida and jumped up to about the 120s before going to stud with Roger Hessen. So even though there's a bit of American saddler in there, she wasn't very saddler in her type. The Wunderbar really stamped her. She looked like a Wunderbar, and I think that there's enough proven jumping in that mare line that this is a very interesting prospect.
Judges are jotting down their scores for Mythos Isla as we move on to the next one, number 4, and this is Chacolicious by Licano Chacuelo. The breeder and owner is Trish Knott. She says that Chacolicious is a feisty filly with a mind of her own. I suspect she will be quite sharp and opinionated under saddle. She is, however, very sweet to work with. She has exceptional movement, and even though jumping bred, I think she will go far in the dressage arena too. So let's start with you, Candice.
Well, certainly the impression in terms of the conformation, just looking at her standing there, it's bewildering to think she's between 1 and 2 when you look at how powerful her hind quarter is already. So I think it's, again, amazing to me how finished she is for her age. Chestnut mare would normally come with a little bit of a temperament of her own. I think she's got a lot of elasticity in the trot, could have a bit more range in the walk. We'll see what the canter has to present. We've seen this bloodline on the top, on the father line coming through, and then, funny enough, here's the Sandro hit yet again, although as Rogan pointed out, they do jump on both sides. And then Grand Veneur, and then on the mother line, we've got a thoroughbred coming through Fair Season, and I don't see that much blood coming through because she is quite a robust type, but also very, very flashy and eye-catching.
Rogan.
Yeah, such an exciting horse, and so much to like about her. She looks like she's going to have blood and quality head. A famous working-class British breeder came to judge in South Africa and said that a good mare should have the head of a duchess, the arse of a cook, and should walk like a whore. And I think she's right there.
And Ryan to finish.
This is a full sister to Khaleesi that we saw in the previous class, and we felt that he was very masculine and well developed for his age, and so I guess that combination is produced a very similar product here. Definitely a very well developed yearling, long yearling, but definitely a incredibly well developed and eye-catching, and I think the horse got a lot of quality. It's very much a warm blood. There's certainly a lot of power and well muscled for its age already.
That was number 4, Chocolicious, the daughter of Licano Chacuelo, to the daughter now of Clarence. Back to Sheila Archdeacon Salou stud in Zimbabwe. She says that this filly is the full jumping package. From the age of 2 months old, she started jumping out of her paddock. off visiting friends and then jumping back to hit the milk bar, and needless to say, Mama wasn't amused. She has a confident but friendly personality, taking after her sire, Clarence. Watch this space, says Sheila. Clarence, let's start with you, Ryan, by Casal. What do you make of this one?
Well, Clarence is a very big chestnut, a really substantial horse, and with an exceptional temperament. And the Casal Coronado Coriano blood is very valuable. And for me, we wanted to see, what he was going to produce and what mares to put him to. And certainly I think that putting him to a Lissabon mare, we're seeing elasticity coming through on that mother's line, and I think that that's probably a very good combination. And certainly, if I look at the horse in front of us, I can see the Lissabon in terms of the type, but I can also see Clarence in terms of the cadence.
Candice.
I really like this horse's ground gaits. The walk is fairly normal, but certainly does present with a lot of airtime and expression in the trot. And the canter is extremely balanced for its age, and shows, I think, in the end will have a good uphill tendency. And also very attractive as a horse, which is always useful.
Rogan, your thoughts?
Yeah, very likable, and fully a show jumper, because this horse canters so much better than it trots. But glamorous, as you said, Candice, with the colouring, very attractive.
Salus Casablanca, number 5 in our program, in the show jumper 1 to 2 year olds, the daughter of Clarence. As we go over the page now to number 6, Mythos, I'm a Charmer, by Diamonds Incognito. This is a colt, and we'll start off with you, Ryan, on the pedigree.
Well, another one by Diamonds Incognito, which we saw a few horses back. And then Eagle's Lucky Charm by Lassiter, out of an Eagle's Warrior mare. Eagle's Warrior, a son of Wunderbar, he was a very tall horse out of a thoroughbred mare. And then going back, we see those foundation mares from the Eagle stud Voigtland Selina by Colonel Pickering, who was a thoroughbred that we see a lot of in some of the eventing horses coming from Namibia, with that Anschluss cross. So Namibian roots on the mare line, and then blood coming in via Wunderbar and the Grey Mantle. And then, of course, like I said, I'm Special de Muse and Alchemy's Kerdermi, both very modern horses, and Diamonds Incognito himself, a very modern horse.
Well, take a look, Ryan. I'm going to let you throw your eyes up to the screen. Shane Gerber once again breeds. Alicia Barnard owns. Charmer is a lovely colt from Diamonds Incognito, out of an Eagles mare, Lassiter mare. He sports both looks and personality, with lovely uphill movement, slightly limited at the moment with him being very croup high. His breeding speaks for itself, with proven jumping lines from both his dam and sire. He is by far the most goofy horse we've ever had the privilege of working with. His favourite pastime is ripping day and fly sheets from himself and anyone else in the camp, then playing with them. Also sticking out his tongue and rolling eyes for selfies, and eating. The hunger is real. He keeps us on our toes. Let's go to you, Candice.
Well, I do think that it's another very glamorous horse. I don't know what's going on with this class, that there's all these fancy markings and weird whirls and wonderful, which is always fun to have on horses. I mean, you can't, well, he'll make an eventer because he likes jumping over the manure heap. It looks like he's certainly going to be a lot of fun to work with. But again, a very nice rounded horse, 3 good gaits, really unbelievably attractive. I like his long lines. Certainly, I always like to see a little bit of length over the top line and long legs. You don't want them to look out of proportion at this age, because they need to grow into themselves. If they're too finished, I think often they can be a little bit too heavy in the end. When they're a bit more light and sporty at this age, it gives them a little bit more room to grow as they mature. Beautiful horse.
And final thoughts from you, Rogan.
Well, as you watched him, he just grew on you and grew on you and grew on you, and you just think about scope and so much to come. That was very exciting.
Number 6, Mythos, I Am a Charmer. On your screen now, number 7, La Sœur Valentine. And this is a daughter of La Sœur Bulgari. And let's start with you now, Rogan, on the pedigree.
So there you see the dressage, basically a dressage sire, Ramirez Fury, never to forget that he is jumping bred in so many ways. And then we won't miss out Larigot this time, Candice.
Absolutely.
There it is. Larigot stood in Pretoria and was very interesting, north of Pretoria, very interestingly bred. And for the first time tonight we see Admiral. Haven't seen that name, old South African warm blood breeding that came largely via Namibia to Gerry de Toy. And then the thoroughbred line. Come on, Aidan, you chip in a bit here with Duwali, Sadler's Wells, Northern Dancer, Model Man, Jalad.
Well, you got the Eliador down there, Jalad as well, so all proven jumping lines there.
Yes.
A little bit of spice probably coming through, could be in the Eliador. You've had a look, have you thrown your eyes up to the screen? Do that, and I'll go through the owner and breeder, Melanie Lusgarten of La Sœur Stud. Ballantyne was bred for eventing. She is an athletic filly that is brave and takes everything new that is thrown at her in her stride. She has an easygoing temperament and showing leadership in the herd. She should mature to a good size of about 16'2". We are hoping this elegant filly with her blonde locks will be a force to be reckoned with in the country one day. So they're bred her for eventing. What do we think? Ryan?
She's definitely light and modern, which is what we'd expect. And I think with that combination of the thoroughbred blood and a little bit of dressage on the top line mixed with a bit of jumping, I think it's a solid approach to breeding eventers. And there's very few people that actually breed specifically for eventing. Most people are either breeding for jumping or dressage. So, and we don't often see somebody who sits down from the beginning and says, okay, I'm going to put this stallion to this mare and produce an eventer. But the canter looks nice and balanced. This horse is in an awkward stage at the moment, and she definitely needs to grow and mature. But I like the canter. I like the balance in the canter, and I think that's useful both in the dressage phase and the cross-country phase of the dressage.
Would you put her down as an eventer, Rogan, or would you look to her in the show jumping?
Loose in the trot, and with that more than 50% thoroughbred, yeah. But I agree with Ryan. What a difficult time to see that sort of filly, so young, and can't wait to see what she turns on. I hope we see her again next year or the year after, because I think that is exciting. Difficult to assess, but lots and lots of movement.
And Candice to finish.
Look, it's definitely a very reflexed and limber horse that I think will prove super interesting for eventing, because she will present with good stamina and capacity on the event ring. I think she should have enough jump for obviously what they will be needed for what they do, and there's definitely enough ground gates. She's got, for me, really the best walk out of this category so far, and it is unfortunate that she is at such an unfinished stage, but in the end, I think it is better that she looks like she does, because that is what she's meant to look like. But it does make it very hard to judge her against the ones that are a bit more finished, because unfortunately optic and impression is what it is. So, but I think she will have a lot more capacity within the next 2 years. So I think it's definitely one to look out for.
That's La Sœur Ballantyne. Number 7 over the page we go to the M53 stud, and here's Billy Ray. Cyrus is his name, Cornet Obolensky. This is a colt. Over to you, Ryan.
Well, it's an interesting pedigree for me. I think the Moorcrofts have made a policy decision to use the imported semen, and it's not that easy down in George. But Cornet Obolensky is a top sire. He's a sire of sires. We want to see him on the top line. And then out of a mare, Caramel PS, bred by the Pardon stud down also in the Western Cape by Canan. And that's where we want to see Canan as the sire of the dam. So they've certainly got number 1 and number 2 in the right place. But then from behind that, we see Velusta by Westenhagen, who was imported licensed dressage stallion. He was a really high-quality stallion by Veldmeyer. But we see the dressage going back there, Velsa by Volkenstein 2, and then Pickbuber 2. So coming on a dressage base, it's going to be very interesting to see. I don't think you're going to see any bad Kanan on the mare line, and I think that I did see the mare Caramel PS when I was at the stud a few years ago, and she's a very correct, very high quality mare. So I think it's maybe a very canny mating.
You like the look of him, Rogan?
Enormously, and even though the dressage blood is there, look at Westenhagen's out of a Landadel mare,
Yes.
and Pickbuber went both ways, gave a lot of blood.
There's certainly enough jumping in that old Hanoverian blood coming through, even
Yes.
though they were selecting for dressage at that stage.
Very appealing.
Candice?
Yeah, it is a curious pedigree with the Westenhagen, and then which has Wolkenstein too as well, and then the Pickbuber. But I think they were themselves quite useful stallions. He's certainly very elegant and sporty for his age, and super balanced with good elasticity. So I actually think he might present quite interesting for dressage as well. I would definitely propose him for both. And I mean, a beautiful refined head with good balanced muscle growth at this stage, and pretty correct in the fundament as well. But it's a very interesting horse.
That's number 8 in our show jumper, 1 to 2 years old. We like the look of Cyrus. As we move on to number 9, Inco's Diamond, another Diamond's Incognito. Let's start with you, Rogan.
Very interesting. Gee, out and out jumper. Ain't going to win no showing class on that photograph. But yeah, and talking about needing time to furnish, again, it looks like it's got scope and big time jumping written all over it.
Michelle Nordier, the owner. They are based in Pretoria. She says, Inco is a spectacular boy. He moves free and has broad shoulders to match his movement. He is my second homebred horse and has the best temperament to match. Big future ahead for this boy as he walks freely, as he jumps out of every paddock and over any fence in his way. So, already showing what he can do. Let's go to you, Candice.
So, I mean, he is pretty bloody and type, blood type at this age, and he is very immature as well, which is hard to evaluate him completely. The ugly ones often, ugly duckling into a swan, we hope in future. He has quite long pasterns.
Yes.
So I do think that would be something that might be a little bit of a concern for long scopy. It should make him quite nice moving, because often the ones with quite long pasterns are elastic moving, and he's got a very nice canter, that certainly I can say. And but a flashy type, certainly something you would look at if you presented him in the arena. And again, I would really like to see this horse at a later stage. He is very, very, very unfinished for his age.
Ryan, thoughts?
Yeah, it's actually very interesting for me because the mother of this we owned at a stage, Helderfontein Fait Accompli, by Van Friet, which was a Malta-Forest stallion that stood with Linda Rabi and was ridden, I think, up to the 150s by Linda Rabi. Belgian, but lots of French blood in there, Cheyenne de Bougie. And then Rivaldor, who is a really good stallion to find on the mare side, and then Thoroughbred going behind that. And the mare herself was a little mare, and she did pass on the pasterns. So I think that the long, maybe slightly slack pasterns, something they're going to have to watch out for. But certainly the horse canters really, really well. And I think the Van Friets gave a lot of rideability, made good, solid, honest horses in the ring. And Incognito will certainly bring that little bit more blood and more modernness. And I think it'll mature into a more modern horse. I think, the foal we had from Fait Accompli was similar. as a youngster, and then actually grew into a big, really good horse in the ring.
So that's Inco's Diamond. The judges are jotting down their scores. Back to the M53 stud, which has quite diverse tastes in music. We've seen some rock stars, we've seen some country and western stars, and here's the opera singer Pavarotti. So this is a colt by Parco. Let's start with you, Candice.
Well, I think we've seen this pedigree, if not a completely similar one earlier, but I mean, as in terms of jumping lines, what more can you ask for? And I always get very excited when we see our old bloodlines, you know, the Opti, Bambiks, and Landjunkers. And Rogan and I were just nattering earlier about actually how ahead of their time, you know, Jerry and certainly, I don't know who else, there was
Beresford Manning.
yeah,
David
yeah,
Stubbs,
my gosh.
Julie Triggle.
What they've achieved in the bloodlines and the pedigrees from that day that is coming through now is, I think, something to certainly be proud of.
Was this not a similar pedigree, Ryan, that won the Gauteng Championships with a 20-year-old Sound Lombard on the weekend in the 145s, the main championship going back to the
Bambiks.
Optimum,
Well, there's...
the Landjunkers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Elzu stud, I mean, Optimum was a huge success story, but it was built on generations of breeding. You know, Jerry du Toit was a generational breeder, so he built up a mare herd and he was selective, and he made use of really good stallions. And Bambiks was a great stallion. He was very successful. Didn't always give a lot of size, but there was certainly blood. And then, like I say, Optimum was a sensation. I think before the Consuelos and the Lissabons came onto the scene, he was for sure probably the top producing stallion in the country. So yeah, it's certainly that Elzu, Jerry du Toit legacy coming through.
From the Moorcrafts, they say that Pavarotti M53 is a spunky colt by Parco out of Chitara Quilita. Parco produces amateur and professional jumpers with excellent temperament. His dam Chitara Quilita is by Quarterdeck Clips out of an Optimum Thunder Wellington Bambiks mare. Pavarotti is one of 4 foals we have bred from Chitara Quilita, namely Ono M53 by Orlando, Pharrell M53 by Parco, and Kigo M53 by Kanan. Kigo won the 2-year-old class at Foresight's Warm Blood Day in 2019 with 2 10s and 2 9.5s from the judges. Make and shape, movement, type, you like, Rogan?
Yeah, again, lots to like. And you start seeing a pattern in a stud, the conformation they shoot for, really workmanlike and very attractive.
Candice?
I think it's a wonderfully pliable horse with clearly a lot of athletic ability. And although he is quite a compact, solid guy, I think that will translate into a lot of power in time. I like his canter, and I like his energy. You know, he's got that sort of spunky, fun,
Forward.
competitive look about him. So I like him.
So that wraps up the class. That was the 1 to 2-year-old jumpers. We finished, there were 10 of them in there, competitive class. You all finished jotting down your scores, so we're going to ask the ladies to come in and get those scores, and they'll go and tally them up, and I believe we have some results, do we? Okay, so the Class 2A, 1 to 2-year-old dressage bred, there were 3 in that class: Chevelle, Dansant, Diorella, Watermark, Just Jubilant, and Dolce Vita. And the winner of that class is, drumroll please, Chevelle Dansant Diorella. Well done, walks away with 800 Rand and a 250 Rand AHFS voucher and 200 milliliter stud guard. And second, walking away with a mid-feeds goodie bag. Well done to Dolce Vita. So that concludes the results for the dressage bred 1 to 2-year-olds. Okay, so, all right, just been whispered in my ear, some announcement there to make as we get through. So are we going to, yes, we're going to go to the next class, and this is the dressage bred under 1s, Candice.
So this pedigree looks similar to me again, so I don't think there is too much to say in terms of, obviously very exciting to see Justice de Jure coming through. and Fitch, you're on M, and that Winter Star we spoke about earlier. Certainly looking at this picture, I can see Fitch coming through on this particular under 1-year-old.
So this is from the Watermark stud. It's a filly, and just been told that the Watermark stud is situated outside of Clarence. They've been breeding for 15 years and have just got their website up. Do go and check them out, www.warmbloods.co.za. All 3 Watermark foals in the 1-year-old category are for sale. So this is one of them, Watermark Jahari. Ryan, what do you make of this?
Yeah, that Fitch certainly stamps them, doesn't he? Even coming through from the mare's side. It's interesting for me, I haven't seen a lot of justice to Jew foals yet, and yet it is a bloodline and a stallion I was very interested in. We did use his full brother, Firestone, quite successfully.
From the stud, from Yvonne McCarthy, she says of Jahari, we have big dreams for this young filly. She has a superb uphill way of going in a canter dressage folk all search for. She shows great activity in the hind leg and shoulder with a slow, even-tempered rhythm with long, loping, ground-covering strides. Again, Justice Dejoux has done his job and imparted the ever-vital, beautiful temperament. She even acts like a superstar already, never just going somewhere, but always strutting. She seems to know that she is very special, a surefire dressage superstar. We will certainly breed with this beautiful girl before she goes on to be a sport horse. We think she is easily going to reach the 17-hand mark. Rogan.
It's fascinating to understand what people are doing in all the corners of South Africa and the depth and quality we're seeing. We've seen some very exciting horses today, and this is one of them.
So that was Watermark Jahari. Next up is Fontenay La Furie by 5 Star. The breeder is Luzanne Slubbert, and the owner is Samantha Lecoq. And let's start with you, Ryan.
Well, it seems that this is out of the same mare from the horse that won the previous dressage class that Subuerta bred. Let me just find it on the list here. Cheval Dansant Diarella. That was by Daddy Cool. This is by 5 Star. 5 Star is an imported Hanoverian licensed in Germany that stands at the Compton House stud in the Western Cape, and with Debbie Wallen, and once again a really, really super pedigree. That mare Benito imported mother line, put Benicio onto that and got Benita and 5 Star onto that. I think it's an interesting combination. We like to see the F line coming through. It seems to give rideability, a lot of rideability as well.
So Luzanne Slubbert is the breeder, as I said. Samantha Lecoq says Fleury is certainly a very special filly to her. She's the first foal she's ever bred herself with her wonderful mare Callahoo Benita. Fleury is beautifully put together, confident, uphill and elastic. She's very friendly, feminine filly with that real look-at-me presence. She's the result of some exciting, proven bloodlines combined. Candice.
Look, it's a very, very glamorous horse. What a beautiful model, remarkably uphill for her age. I love the pedigree. I mean, it's just a handful of some of the best bloodlines. 5 Star himself is wonderful. Floriston 1, Alkenstein 2, Calypso 2, who was a dual breeder but made lots of wonderful dressage bloodlines. Benicio, De Niro, Veltmeyer, Brentano 2. I mean, you couldn't really ask for much more. I think, like here we have a look, the canter is a little animated, but not easy when there's so much tension. I think there is a lot of range in this filly. She's got an extremely good walk, and she really is glamorous. That is one of the words that would jump to mind. And when Ryan spoke about needing to have presence in the ring, I certainly think she will satisfy that.
Rogan?
She's clearly got blood watching this, and I think I agree with you. Glamour, and the feeling about her is scope.
That's number 2, Fontenay La Furie in the under 1 dressage bred. We go now to the second of the Watermark Studs collection, Just Johnson. Justice de Jus once again. This is a colt, and let's start with you, Candice.
So nothing more to be said with Justice de Jus, but obviously lovely to see so many blood of the stock coming through with that bloodline. Asterix himself was a fabulous horse that was ridden up to top level. He goes back to Matador, which was also wonderful dressage bloodlines. But what really is interesting is Callao Geneva. So you've got Granulette on her father line, but Satine was Salinero's full sister. And Salinero and 7 Up were both ridden at the Olympics, one for jumping, one for dressage. So Satine herself wasn't actually ridden on sport at any high level, but she came through on a couple of the pedigrees bred at Callao. So that's certainly very interesting to see on the mother line.
Owned and bred by Yvonne McCarthy of Watermark Warmbloods, and this is another one that is for sale. And Yvonne runs the Old Mill Drift Guest House alongside the stud in this beautiful setting. This foal emanates quality. He's fine and refined with near-perfect conformation and bright as a button. Ever the super inquisitive and alert, intelligent and friendly disposition with a lovely temperament which we hoped he would inherit from his sire, Justice. If dreams do come true, he could be just like his grandsire, World Champion Johnson, no less than the current world #1 ranked stallion on the World Breeding Federation of Sport Horses, which is a really big deal. Who knows, perhaps dreams may come true. Could they, Ryan?
Well, I think that's the beauty of breeding, is that we all have a dream, and we all long to breed something spectacular. And you never know where the next top stallion or top horse is going to come from. A lot of the top horses in the world came from small breeders with 1 or 2 mares, and they don't really get the glory. They don't get the recognition, But certainly there's a lot of top horses. Most of the top horses don't come from the big studs. And even in Europe, a lot of the top studs, they have their stallions and they breed a certain number of horses, but they have their client breeders, and they'll go, when the foals hit the ground, they'll go and buy a whole bunch of those foals that they think are potentially stallions down the line.
Rogan to finish.
Interesting how much better this horse's canter is than his trot. You never know if you're seeing them at a growth spurt and whether they're quiet or at their best on that day. I have a feeling there's more to come with this horse, but boy, what a canter.
Oh, super canter.
Watermark Just Johnson, #3 in the #1 dressage bred. The last of this class is also from Watermark. It's Watermark Farah. And let's start with you, Rogan, on the far end.
Well, just trying to look at the background in the pictures, and this looks to me like a stud farm that's going to make tough, sound horses. They look hard-hooved, and I have a feeling these are going to be real toughies. And you do want a horse that can survive after all the training and train on, and I'm thinking this stud looks like being able to deliver that.
Candice?
Well, I think in terms of the pedigree, again, it's there we see the Floriston 1 coming through on the father line, and then Asterix again, Desperado, Land Earl. I always loved Land Earl on the mother line, certainly a bit further back. But I think it will be, I agree with Rogan, they certainly are stamping the same kind of foals over and over again. This foal has a highlight in terms of its walk at the moment, although I must add, often at this age with the long stilty legs, they can have bigger walks than what they end up with at a later stage, but you can still discern a good walk and a great walk on a young foal like this. But I agree, I think the stud is certainly putting some really interesting dressage bloodlines into our country.
Well, Yvonne McCarthy of the Watermark Stud says that Watermark Warmbloods has tried to utilize the very best bloodlines available to us in South Africa. We do believe that we are succeeding in breeding excellent progeny with exemplary blood. Farah is the result of a long line of mares bred by us, and we do hope that she will become a foundation mare for a few years before she goes off to be in the sport. And they all hope to breed with her, with Fiora's bloodlines. Jazz, Gribaldi, Come On, and Landgraf, and with Asterix, world #1 as a 5- and 6-year-old, and now with Johnson thrown into the mix, we hope that Watermark Farah will live up to our expectations. And Ryan to finish.
Yeah, it's definitely a strong dressage pedigree, and I think that I think it's what to follow up. I wanted to follow up on what Candice was saying about the long stilty legs. So when horses grow, the growth plates start closing from the bottom up. So starting with the pasterns at about 8 weeks. So the length of a horse's pasterns by the time they're 8 weeks old is set. And so what we end up often with is a picture that the foals tend to have higher hocks than what they'll have when they mature. So it also definitely influences the picture we get in the movement here. And often when they have the higher hocks, they can appear to work a little bit out behind as foals. The shorter croups that haven't developed yet, and then the high hocks.
I think what I really like about him is that he clearly has a very confident, reliable, cooperative character. For a foal to canter around like that, not flick an ear left or right, and really his highlight is his walk and his canter as well. He's certainly a sturdy looking horse. He's not sort of elegant in his form, but I think he will give a robust but yet elastic impression in the end.
That concludes the class. Watermark Farah. Remember that the Watermark stud is now online, www.warmbloods.co.za, and all the Watermark horses in this category are for sale. So if anything's tickled your fancy, do get hold of them. I'm sure all the details on that website, www.warmbloods.co.za. That concludes the class. Do we have some results from the previous class? Yes, we do. As the runners come in and take the score sheets, let's take a look at the results from
Thank you.
the 1 to 2 year old jumpers. And in first place and walking away with, I'll just go back to that page, 1,200 Rand for first, 800 Rand for second, 500 for third, 250 for fourth, and for first place 250 Rand AHFS voucher and a 5-litre stud oil. The winner from the M53 stud is Cyrus. Congratulations to the Moorcrofts. Cyrus taking the win there in the jumping bred 1 to 2 year olds. Second place to Chocolicious, and a tie for third between Mythos Isla and Saluz Casablanca. So just to recap, Cyrus M53 the winner. Second place to Shakwalicious, and a tie for third between Mythos Isla and Saluz Casablanca. As we move on to the final class of the, I believe we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, the final class, Class 1B, jumping breds under 1 year old.
Hard to evaluate.
Very
I hate looking at foals, eh?
Oh,
I hate it.
I like looking at
Welcome back to our South African Warm Blood Horse Society Virtual Young Stock Show for 2022. And once again, big thank you to the South African Warm Blood Horse Society in association with Rotoflow, Equus Pro, Talkcraft, Hobday Equestrian Enterprises, Studguard, AFM Midrand Impact Christian Centre, African Horse Fly Spray, HQ, Midfeeds, Iconic Size, the Compton House Stud, Equifeeds, Equine Librium, Manador, and Talkcraft, Equus Pro there as well. Thank you to all of our sponsors. The last class of the evening is the 1 year old jumpers, and we start with Pearl Jam here, Ryan. Were you a fan? This is out of must be an old mare being out of Sher.
Well, Sher is not that old. She's born in 2018, so...
This Sher we're talking
This Sher,
about.
yeah. But hopefully she'll go on forever. They've used a lot of Parco. We've seen a lot of Parcos from the M53 stud. And this one is very interesting because the mother Sher is a Contendra 1, Lassiter, Concerto, and I remember seeing this as a foal, and the mother, Sher M53, and she was a very impressive typey foal with a lot of presence and movement. So it's interesting to see the influence of Parco has come through very strongly in this foal, as it does. And the one thing I've seen with every single one of these Parcos is he passes on the Darko, that hind leg of Darko.
Bred by the Moorcrofts, Pearl Jam M53 is by Parco out of Sher M53. He is her first foal. And he's also the first foal from a mare which we have bred. Parco is undeniably one of the greatest. He has left a permanent mark both in sport and breeding. His dam Sher is by Contendro. Contendro is the only sire to have offspring competing and winning at the high levels in all three FEI disciplines. She's out of Eagles Lorette, who's a full sister of two open show jumpers, namely Eagles Laser, ridden by Nicholas Simon Riley, and Eagles Licorice, ridden by Robin Gerber. His grand dam Eagles Country Lass is also a full sister to Eagles Cold, it says. Coldplay, who competed up to 1 meter 30. Let's go to you, Rogan.
Yeah, interesting. So the colour has not taken from the dam. I always think that's very important to at least factor in. Upstanding and attractive. Can't wait to see it canter.
He's pretty masculine for his age. I mean, it's clearly going to, it's clearly a male. And I think he's also, I love the sort of spunky, intrigued attitude that he has. He's curious about everything that's going on. Quite coltish for his age already. And I think he's going to have really quite a huge amount of power once he is fully matured.
From the video, the way he moves, Ryan, you like?
Yeah, he's a Darko stamp. He moves like a Darko, lots of power, lots of substance. Interestingly, Rogan, the colour hasn't come through from the sire either, and I was interested to see that they've got a few Parcos, none of them are grey, and even the Cornet Obolensky they showed is not grey either, so something down there is keeping the grey away.
Interesting.
Right, so that's Pearl Jam M53. The first on display in the show jumper under ones. Let's go on to number 2. This is, and I'll let you attack this name there, Rogan.
Thanks. No, I didn't.
Mythos Egwenia Alvere, or Alvere. Candice, have a go?
Poppet. I'm sure that's its nickname by now. I think they do that just for you, Aidan, when you're announcing one day so that they can see your tongue get into a knot.
From the Mythos stud, this is a daughter of Isaro, Ryan.
And there seem to be quite a few good Asaros coming through on the circuit, jumping up the grades. Most notably is Elmo with Kaz Lee jumping in the 135s. I think she might have done a 140 already at Stockies, and that is out of the very good mare Rocket that Ronnie Healy rode as an 18-year-old in the 150s. So, but we like the Asaros. They blood, they modern, they take you to the fence, and they're very sporty horses. And then we spoke about this mare earlier on. It's the Courts that clips onto the part Sadler bred mare. And I think a nice mare. I think she is a good mare, and I think that's an interesting combination.
Well, Shanae says that Egwenia is an incredibly kind and easygoing filly. She's bred for show jumping. However, she has fantastic movement, just like her sire and dam. Egwenia is a very tall girl and will be a dream for any aspiring showman, and is unfortunately for sale by the Mythos stud. Her lineage combined with her incredible temperament will ensure she is able to reach the top of her career with any rider. Her dam has proven to breed easy-going foals, and her Sawhs foals are already competing in the 1 meter 40 classes, as you said. Rogan, your impression?
Yeah, it's so interesting working with some Azaros, and huge up to them, and always nice to look at something leggy like this, refined quality leggy. So exciting, and I think Azara is definitely one to keep using.
Candice?
Yeah, it's a super elegant filly, and I mean, she is very tall. If you certainly look at her next to her mother, it's hard to believe that she's not been weaned yet, and pretty stamped by the mother as well. I mean, they are, you know, it's a little mini-me going on there. I like the fact that she's quite snappy and electric in her paces, but at the same time, she looks pretty attentive. The cant is a little bit animated in the video, but I did see a couple of strides that look pretty elastic. So there's certainly, I think, going to be quite a lot of range in terms of her paces, and I think she'll mature into a super interesting horse.
So that's Mythos Egwenya. Right, In My Ear, Amelia Campbell Horn. This is by Gelooven, number 3 pronounced. Junaid, Genade. There you go. By Gelooven, thanks very much. Let's go down to Rogan, take a look at the breeding.
Lots of big international names there in the sire sign with Zakharov, Clinton, Good Times, Corleone. And then on to thoroughbred blood on the dam side, Noordhoek Flyer, a recent success on the racetrack, Delami, Plug Nickel, and finally one of our top favourites, Eliodor. A very interesting pedigree. You've got to obviously be watching and see what happens.
Onem bred by Amelia Campbell Horn. This is the second foal of Amelia's imported Dutch stallion, and of course she says he is perfect. Gelooven is a big, solid Dutch warm blood with outstanding conformation and exceptional nature. Amelia has produced him from a 3-year-old to winning 130 show jumper, ready to go to a winning 130 show jumper, and he's ready to go 1 meter 35. Her dam is a striking 4-year-old thoroughbred who was a multiple winner. Genade means grace, aka also known as Baby G, is the female clone of her father, but with added lightness and speed from her dam. This combination of breeding has delivered a foal with all her parents' best attributes: temperament, conformation, movement, and personality. Ryan?
Yes, we can definitely see the influence of the mare here. It's a very strong thoroughbred influence that we're seeing in this foal, and you can see even the conformation through the neck into the shoulder is very similar to the mother. But I also think that the combination of that stallion to the thoroughbred is a good choice. You know, I think that this type of quickness from the thoroughbreds and the blood from the thoroughbreds can go well with him.
Candice?
She's a lovely mare. I think it's always nice to bring the blood into our pedigrees. I think it can help the rideability. Often the purebred warm bloods can be a little bit cold and a bit deliberate for some of the more amateur riders. So I think the blood does help with the rideability at the end of the day and make the horses a bit more sensitive and reflexed. And that comes out in a clearly nimble foal. Very, very immature for his age, or her age, sorry. But I think she sort of does definitely tick all the boxes. I like her canter a lot.
And your thoughts, Rogan, to finish?
You've got to enjoy the long legs, and the 50% thoroughbred immediately draws us in South Africa because we love thoroughbred so much. Yeah, very interesting, very exciting, and she was such a little thing. Please look, can we see her next year and the year after? Don't sell her too quick.
Number 4, Lasur Bellagio. This is a colt, owned and bred by Lasur Stud and the Lusgarten sisters. They say Bellagio is line bred to Ramiro Z and Lucky Boy, but has a good mixture of jumping and dressage blood. He is a large, tall colt with big joints who should mature to around 17 hands. He will be able to compete in both dressage and show jumping. He shows an easygoing temperament with 3 elastic paces. looking at the pedigree, Ryan?
Yeah, I see a lot of dressage lines coming through there, all the way through, and a lot of quality in those pedigrees. You know, we had Nightwatch was really a quality dressage sire by Jazz that stood at Masandi. Zenturio stood at Sellerhoff and bred really a lot of beautiful types. And then Bulgari himself is a very beautiful stallion. So I think that we expect to see a very typey foal here, and that's what we're seeing.
Let's turn our attention to Candice to look at the pedigree while Ryan takes a look at the clips.
So sometimes I'm always a little bit concerned if your pedigree isn't committed enough to jumping or dressage, because obviously you stand at risk of not producing a crack of either. But we have to remember that you are generally breeding for the average amateur who isn't aiming to go to the Olympics. So I think the beauty of doing something like that is to breed a true dual purpose, where, you know, somebody could have either fun in both disciplines, or if you end up breeding something that is of enough quality and type, 3 good gaits, a nice jump and rideability, anyone will end up having a lot of fun on that horse.
And you've had a look at moving around. What are your impressions of movement?
I think it's got a super walk, but again, I must reiterate, often the stilty long legs can exaggerate that. But as you've seen, some of the horses in the same age group didn't have a big walk. So clearly this will have a good walk in due course. I think he has certainly a good trot. A little bit more cadence would be great, but I like his mechanic. And I think overall, you know, he makes a super impression.
And Ryan, there's a slow-mo as you love so much.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's always nice when you slow-mo and you can just get that impression of cadence, but it sometimes can actually work against you, I suppose. But we're here to look past the cinematography and just really get a feel for. Yeah, it's beautiful. Some of these places that we're seeing here are, and such a vast array of different places, but all beautiful.
And Rogan to finish.
I'm blown away by what we're seeing, the sort of range and depth, and it's just going to be so interesting. I know how much the scene has changed in my lifetime, and looking forward, I can't imagine how much it's going to change again with these horses as starter packs.
Owned and bred by Claire Martin of the Martini Stud, which is based near Lanseria. We have number 5. This is a colt, Martini Lukalele, by Legend, Ryan.
Yeah, so Legend is the exciting young stallion that Charlie Crockett's now jumping. I think he's 5 or 6, and he's jumping in the 120s. And he's got a very, very strong jumping pedigree. Mr. Blue, Clinton, Heartbreaker. And I've seen a few foals from him, and they're modern, but what they all have is very good limbs. Like, he really is passing on excellent limbs to his horses. And then the mother of this Ukulele by Ubergabe out of a Wachmann mare would have been bred by the Triggles. They had Ubergabe, and they put him to a lot of Wachmann mares. And this mare has changed hands a few times now at Martini Stud, and is the mother of Danielle Everts's horse, the Lissabon Liberace, who's jumping in the opens now. So a performance-proven mare in terms of what she's produced.
From Claire Martin, Ukulele has produced some super foals for Martini Stud, including the talented 5-year-old mare Babushka and a 4-year-old half Lusitano gelding Milagre, who competes with Siobhan Records in prelim dressage, while at Callao she produced a gelding by Lissabon called Callao Liberace, who is now 7-year-old and competes at 1.30 meters. Luca is a tall, elegant and flashy colt. He is offered for sale by the Martini Stud. Over to you, Candice.
Well, I think it's a very classy foal. He's super long-lined and elegant and sporty as a type. It really is, again, another little mini-me of the mare. I think, you know, the suspicion always when you have Wachmann is in terms of the quality of the canter, but I certainly think that Ubergabe and Legend have brought through a better quality on that. And I love the fact that he's so elegant and athletic for his age. You know, he's not too compact and squat long-lined, rangy, and I think it would be a very interesting horse, again, for dual purpose. I certainly wouldn't turn my nose up for him, on him for dressage.
Rogan, pedigree, and from what you saw in the pictures, make and shape of this one?
One was a fan of Ukulele. She was very useful when she was a competition mare. And Legend is so exciting in the way he jumps and in the genetic potential. And this looked scopy, so very exciting.
That's number 5, Martini Lukalele. Number 6 from the M53 stud, who's had success here tonight, is Kiara. And this is by the Berg's Compagnon, who Ryan Charlie also competes on, I think.
She does. Berg's Compagnon is an interesting stallion by Comme Il Faut, top performing son of Kornet Obolensky, and then with Kidam Derval and Contender on the mare side. More interesting for me, the mother of this Brannock Big City Life. I backed that horse some years ago. A Belmondo out of Brannock Chianti, who was a Randall Z. And then out of Laissez-Faire, who Rogan will remember, Poland's Laissez-Faire, Wunderbar Graveur, and mother of Beluga, and Brannock Bellini d'Or, who both jumped the Opens. Big City Life was not a big mare, but she had a lot of quality, and so interesting for me to see this combination from Compagnon onto her.
Let's go to you, Rogan.
It's fascinating. And compliments to this stud. The horses are well presented and in good condition. They're not overweight, but they're muscled and rounded. They look super, and they're obviously reaching all their goals at the right age and stage. Very likable.
Candice.
It's a pretty sort of powerful looking filly. She's very sturdy for her age. I think she's going to be a real powerhouse once she matures. I like her sort of spunky character, well-balanced canter, and certainly a really beautiful model.
That's Kiara M53 from the Moorcrofts, number 6 in the last class of the evening, which is the jumping under 1-year-olds. Back to the Salou stud now. This is Zimbabwe bred. Sheila Archdeacon presents. Another one by Clarence out of a Lissabon mare, Callahoo Leila Vella. This is Salou's Cayman, and he is a chestnut colt. If we can just get onto his page. There he is from Sheila, the friendliest kid on the block. He's always in your business, trying to see what you're up to. A superb amount of bone and great conformation added to the temperament. I'm sure he's going to be a formidable horse under saddle. Let's start with you, Rogan.
Yeah, we know well in South Africa this pedigree, Callahoo, Leila Vella, Lissabon, Raphael, Watzmann. Strong, talented, has produced so many good competition horses, and the Casal Coronado Cross in Clarence, very exciting. So you start straight away with great pedigree. You'd go out of your way to see this horse or buy it almost sight unseen.
Sorry, is there a chance we could start this video again, because there was a really fast walk, a bit hard to assess. If possible, please. There we go, thank you.
Let's stay with you, Candice, and your impressions now that we are in real time.
Yes, I don't have to speak double time either. Certainly, it's quite a sporty. You know, the mare sort of hasn't stamped through so strong on this. I don't think it's a sporty foal that has got, again, quite a lot of muscularity about it for its age. And now that it walks at a normal pace, it actually certainly seemed to have a bit of airtime and elasticity in the trotting. And very interesting. I'm not that familiar with Compagnon at all in the jumping, but certainly I remember Belmondo very well and Randall Z. And I can't believe how many of these horses the Wunderbar has come through on the mother line. I mean, that's been over and over again.
Ryan.
So this is a full brother to Casablanca we saw in the 1 to 2 year olds, and I think that horse placed tie third in that class, and probably a similar stamp of foal by Clarence, well developed, He is a big, strong stallion, and I see a lot of his characteristics coming through in both of these foals. I think they're quite similar.
Lots to like about Sawhs Cayman. That was number 7. And over the page we go now as the judges jot down their scores there. Number 7, Sawhs Cayman from the Sawhs stud onto the Martini stud. Another entry from them. And this is a daughter of Elvis Tapata out of the 4 Joy Mare Callahoo for Scotty once again. Let's start with you, Ryan.
Okay, it's a full sibling, I think, to the one we saw earlier as well. The Elvis Tapata onto the 4 Joy and then Thoroughbred again. And quite a different result this time. I think they're quite different stamp of horses. And we're also finding that Elvis Tapata, we've used him on the same mare a couple of times, and we've had quite different results. So certainly a stallion that you're not 100% sure what you're going to get.
Candice.
Yeah, I agree with Ryan there. It's amazing how he hasn't stamped that strongly through. But again, a very modern type foal that is well proportioned, and certainly in terms of the lines, nothing looks concerning the length of rein, the quality of the top line, the limbs, the lightness of the bone, and the correctness of the foal, I think is super. And I think in terms of the moving, we haven't seen the canter yet, but walk and trot, well balanced, certainly moves with correct mechanic and quite good hind legs.
Rogan.
Wow, exciting, long-legged, and agree with Candice, spectacular walk. Good quality head, very appealing.
And final thoughts on movement, Ryan, as you take a look?
Yeah, it's a very leggy, modern type. And I think it looks quite tall compared to, I think, the full sibling. The canter's got there's a lot of push. You know, the horse pushes from behind nicely into you can sort of see it push into imagine it pushing into the bridle. It pushes and comes all the way through the shoulder into the neck. So I quite like that. I think you can get a horse that you can imagine taking it around a track and having that horse propel you in the jump off.
Once you're breeding out of a mare that's jumped 130 successfully, you're in the upper category of quality of dams. They're not enough, you can't have enough performance-tested mares in that way.
That was number 8, Martini Emma Scott, penultimate horse on show this evening. The last now, Willow L. Goku Z by Emerald von der Reutershof. And this owned and bred by the Willow Warmblood stud based in Katu. Goku was bred by Willow Stud and is retained as a future breeding prospect for jumping. Goku's sire being the one and only Emerald von der Reutershof, Rio 2016 Olympic medalist and multiple worldwide Grand Prix winner. On Goku's dam line, we have a cross between jumping and dressage lines, Goku's grand dam having competed 145 in the jumping ring and his grandsire Euphoric with the dressage and showing career. Goku is a very smart colt. He's big for his age with the traditional stocky bone type and long athletic legs with very engaged hind movement, expected to reach 17 hands plus in height. We're very excited to see what this colt brings us in the future. Let's start with you, Rogan.
So interesting with that pedigree, and just to draw your attention to the thoroughbred blood on the dam side, Star Cutter. So very interesting, that makes for toughness, and they were successful horses back in the day. Now I've got to watch this because it starts off on the page very interesting.
I think Greta Stowe won the Derby.
Exactly.
Was a Star Cutter.
Yes. Well, thanks for help with that name. I couldn't get there.
Candice.
Well, again, interesting on the pedigree because I think it's very strongly jumping, obviously, on the father line, but euphoric in terms of United, Cracksea, Gribaldi, those are very much dressage lines. So comes back to what I said earlier, where I think it is a bit risky to do that, but it does give you the opportunity of breeding something that could really have a bit of scope to do a bit of everything for a nice amateur rider, or maybe you get lucky and it ends up being a crack. I think what Rogan and I were discussing earlier is you either can or can't jump, but if you have a little bit of aptitude as a horse, you can learn to do dressage if you have a certain amount of uphill tendency and elasticity. I think he was quite an interesting mover, to be honest. I think that his movement was, for me, the best highlight of him. Little straight in the hind leg, if I had to be super critical, but it's a very interesting foal.
Ryan?
Yeah, it is interesting. I think what's happening with breeders is breeders are starting to become braver, and they're starting to look to use some top stallions like Emerald. What I will say is that Emerald can throw a lot to the mare, and I think in this case we do see the mare there. It's very interesting. You know, I think as a breeder you have to really decide what you're wanting to breed. Do you want to breed a jumper? Do you want to breed a dressage horse? And then you've got to put that together over generations. I think Emerald is undoubtedly one of the top stallions in the world at the moment as jumpers, and I'd be interested to see how this horse develops and what it's like in the ring, and if the brilliance of Emerald can really bring the horse to the top as a jumper, despite the very strong dressage lines on the dam side.
That concludes this evening with Willow El Goku, and the judges are just jotting down their final scores for the last class. We're going to take a look at a result, and this is for the under 1-year-old dressage, and the winner there was number 2, Fontenay Le Fury, gets first place in the 1-year-old dressage bred Fontenay Le Fury, well done, and second place to Watermark Just Johnson. So let's take a look at what they've won. Fontenay Le Fury walked away with 1,000 Rand, 250 Rand gift voucher from African Horsefly Spray, and a 200 milliliter stud guard bottle. And in second place, Watermark Just Johnson walks away with 250 Rand and an AHFS voucher and a 200 milliliter stud guard, and 600 Rand, I beg your pardon, for second place. Okay, so we've just got one class to go through the results. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, those results and a wrap up from our judges and their opinions and what they've seen this evening in terms of quality from some of these smaller studs.
wanted to build and create an exciting jump and filler, but never had the right product? With our multi-purpose Rotoveti, we have the solution for you. This proudly South African product, made by equestrians for equestrians, will allow you to build amazing rules, fillers and wings for your jumps and gymnastics. Our award-winning Rotovetis are designed with your safety in mind, with its rounded corners, interlocking pins and brightly colored options ensures an affordable, safe and lightweight product that can be quickly assembled and taken down. Our Rotovetis come with a plug for an easy way to fill your Rotoveti with sand or water if you need to weigh it down on those windy days. The durable and sturdy construction ensures years of use thanks to the UV8 technology. Rotovetis are sold in sets of 2 jump blocks, including 4 interlocking pins. Each block is 45 by 40 by 14 centimeters. The best thing is you can order your Rotovetis directly from us. Contact us via our Facebook.
Welcome to the world of mid-feeds and tack and togs. South Africa's largest animal feed retailer and a haven for equestrian enthusiasts and animal lovers. Friendly and knowledgeable staff are at your service. We pride ourselves in offering a vast range of premium products that we know and trust. Your passion is our passion at Midfeeds and Tack and Togs. Where we lead, others follow. Welcome to the...
I think we're live. I think we're back here with the South African Warm Blood Horse Society, and the last class has been scored. That was the jumping under 1-year-olds. And the winner, congratulations to Claire Martin, Martini Stud, Martini Emmy Scott takes the win. Congratulations to Claire. Emmy Scott wins, and what do they win? Let's take a look. 1,200 Rand. Plus a 250 Rand AHFS voucher and a 5-litre stud oil. Second place taking 800 Rand. That goes to the Martini Stud. Martini Lukalele getting second. Well done to Claire. Third place to M53 Studs Pearl Jam. Fourth place to Lasua Bellagio. Tie fourth place it is with Willow L Goku Z. So congratulations to all of the winners tonight. Big well done. Right, let's take a look and listen to our final thoughts from our judges. We'll start on the far end with you, Rogan.
This was once again exciting, augurs well for the future, and definitely this time round, horses better presented. In super condition, we were mostly able to see the gates and get a strong positive idea. So a step up from last year.
Candice.
Well, first I'd like to say congratulations to the team here, because even though it is a wonderful initiative and I love the idea of this, it was rather scratchy start to the organization last year, rather entertaining. And this year really smooth, slick, well organized, well done to you. Thank you so much to my fellow judges and Aidan. It was really a pleasure working with you, and your wealth of knowledge as always, Rogan, on the pedigrees, and obviously Ryan, lovely to have some nice fresh insight into what's happening out there. In terms of the horses, I can only echo what Rogan has said. The presentation was leaps and bounds better. It was very disheartening last year having to give noughts because there were portions missing. Again, the more the presentation is standardized, the easier it makes our job, certainly in terms of standing the horses up, working them into similar surfaces, not very long grass, not very deep surfaces, because it can give a very false impression of how the horse's mechanic is. In terms of what was presented, it's so exciting to see these kind of bloodlines coming through. I'm certainly very proud, and I hope that our warm blood breeders are supported by our buyers locally. I do think that there was, on average, a better quality. And I think that some of those jumping classes were pretty hard to judge, because where one could maybe walk better, the other one canted slightly better, but the types, the pedigrees, the overall impressions as a whole, really good quality. And I think what will define most of these horses at the end will be who rides them and how they're produced. So I think it's a very competitive group of young stock. A big congratulations to our breeders.
Big thank you to you, Candice, and final thoughts from you, Ryan, your first time here this evening.
Yeah, it was, I mean, I love looking at horses. I can go and look at horses all day, and particularly foals as well. So I think that I hope a lot more people were watching tonight than just the breeders who entered horses in, because I think that, you know, if people are looking for horses for the future, they might have some pointers on where to go looking now. Certainly, there are some really classy young stock being produced and bred in often remote places in the country. But we're seeing certain bloodlines coming through again and again, and we're seeing, all in all, a consistently high quality. I think the breeders have really figured out what to do, and it comes across even in the videos. I mean, we didn't see one horse running with its tail in the air and tense. I mean, the people really took a lot of time and put a lot of effort into getting the horses to look relaxed in themselves and to show their most natural way. So you're seeing horses that, you know, they're not being flashed up, you know, that nobody's sort of standing there in the back chasing them with a plastic packet and getting the tail up. That you're seeing these horses as natural as can be in their own environment, and I think that the quality still has shone through this evening.
And Ryan, if I may add, let's hope that the people who had horses for sale did sell them, because they certainly deserve to with this very good marketing tool.
Yes.
Big thank you to the South African Warm Blood Horse Society for putting it all together, the people behind the scenes, Francis, Amelia, Owen, Rowan, Bella, and we're broadcasting this evening from the AFM Impact Church in Midrand. Also a big thank you to our sponsors. Without them, this wouldn't have been possible. So Rotaflow, Equus Pro, Mindy Hunt Talkcraft Power Tool Accessories, Menador Exclusive Equine Management, Equine Librium, Equifeeds, the Compton House Stud, Iconic Size, Midfeeds, HQ Magazine, African Horsefly Spray, Stud Guard, and Candice Hobday Equestrian Enterprises. Well done to all of you guys for coming on board. Hopefully we'll be back same time, same place next year. And until then, guys, thanks for being with us. All the very best. See you then. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.
Very interesting.